Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium Esports coverage of the season opener for season number 3 of Monday Night Racing, presented by Tufco Flooring, the Sim Seats 250, live tonight from iRacing's virtual Daytona International Speedway in Daytona Beach, Florida. I am James Blythe, the voice of Podium Esports, alongside Kenneth Bueno, our pit reporter Justin Prince, our producer for the evening National Speedway, with cameras provided this evening by Dougie Beard. Kenneth, a brand new season of Monday Night Racing, and it just gets bigger and better than ever. All the big names that you've come to know and love from the series are back for the season opening race, and a few new faces as well.
Yeah, Pike, and there's a lot of things to go into this season, a lot of things to look forward to. Of course, you say the new drivers, new things that we're going to see, but also just pretty much a follow-up from what we saw last season. A fantastic run all the way to the final race. A lot of drivers with some great moments, some wacky moments, anything you want to see out of the sun, it was there. And tonight, it is that fresh slate for a lot of drivers trying to chase that Season 3 title. We saw Will Rogers capture it last season. Now it's pretty much everybody else and Will Rogers with that defense trying to take that title once again. And it all starts right here, the best place probably to start a season with stock cars, right here at the Daytona International Speedway.
Before we get going to tonight's races, we're going to head to opening ceremonies. And for our national anthem, we turn to Nashville recording artist Brooks Huntley. And our command this evening will be given by a man who's called many an Indianapolis 500, a Daytona 500, and a Cup Series champion, former NASCAR announcer Alan Bestwick, with the call to fire engines.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. All the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Big thanks to Brooks Huntley for tonight's national anthem. Justin Prince, plate racing, Xfinity package, any expectations?
Well, majority of the drivers I spoke with in preparation for tonight have mentioned needing to be patient. Some are preferring tonight to race towards the front and stay in front of the chaos. Others looking to try and ride towards the back. It's going to be interesting how the strategies play out, and it really depends on where they're starting for how those strategies in turn play out early on in this one, James.
We'll see how they pan out over the course of this race, but now to our Grand Marshal for this evening, Alan Bestwick, to give the command to fire engines.
Hey everybody, Alan Bestwick here, proud to be your Grand Marshal for tonight. Hope you have a blast and good luck out there. Drivers, start your engines.
Time to bring you tonight's Rowdy Energy starting grid for the first race of Season 3 of Monday Night Racing. It's Podium Esports' own Gary Sexton with a fast time of 50.433 alongside our Season 2 champion Will Rogers. They'll take the front row on the grid. Robbie Lyons and Garrett Smithley, drivers with Xfinity Series experience and Cup Series and Truck Series experience across the board. In that second row, the third row, Kyle Busch Motorsports' Max Kennan alongside the 2016 Supercross champion Shane Van Gisbergen. Get it?
And you head back to row number 4, you'll find Matt Stocknick in the number 41 machine. Seth Egger will be alongside him in the 57 car. Right there behind them, you'll find James Bickford in the 29, followed by a NASCAR driver and IndyCar driver, James Davison in the 15 on the outside of your top 10. Then behind them, you'll find Justin Malillo will start his season from the 11th spot in row number 6 with Steve Alfont in the 11 on that inside row.
Xfinity Series driver Ryan Vargas alongside NASCAR next member Raja Karut. Anthony Alfredo, who's part of the Championship 4 season ago, alongside Devin Henry, who you can hear on Podium Esports on Sunday nights. Josh Slate, David Schildhouse completing your top 18.
And back over to the 19th spot, you will find Ruben Garcia in the 03 machine, followed by Michael Massey on his outside to complete your top 20. Greg Stump in the 78 will be behind them, with Mike Clay in the 88 as well with a 50.553. Garrett Miller in the 36 will be in the inside of row number 12. And NHRA driver Ron Capps will be in the outside of row number 12 to the top 24.
A pair of Indiana boys, Dylan Welch and Chris Wilner on row 13. Row 14 belongs to Drew Welker and Gabe Wood, part of the pit crew for JD Motorsports and Gary Keller. Adam Cabot, the champion of the Esports Racing League Season 3, won his way into this, and he starts alongside Kligerman Sports, Parker Kligerman.
NASCAR Xfinity Series driver Preston Pardis will roll off from the 31st starting position, followed by Brendan Brown in the 12 machine to his outside. DJ Cummings will be behind them in row number 17 with Penske spotter TJ Majors in row number 17. Nick Sanchez in the 96 will be in the inside of row 18, followed by Brett Baldick in the 4. Will complete at least the drivers all the way back in P35.
Stephen Ellis, Mark Rubilis, Ford Martin, Paul Sutton, your final drivers to make up this 40-car grid to start. And that's your starting grid presented to you this evening by our friends at Rowdy Energy. Kyle Busch always strives to excel in everything he does, not only on the racetrack, where he's broken countless records and is a two-time NASCAR Cup Series champion, but also off the track, where he's a husband, a father, and a business owner. With a focus on wellness for longevity in his career and life, Busch created Rowdy Energy with a proprietary enhanced energy formula. Rowdy Energy is a better-for-you product product specifically formulated for your needs to accomplish any challenge thrown your way. It seeks to support those that embody a high spirit of performance, including the weekend warrior, the superhero mom, the ambitious college student, and the men and women in uniform. Rowdy Energy Drink is currently available in 7 flavors, including 5 sugar-free options that are keto certified. And for more information, you can visit their website at rowdyenergy.com. We take a look at the track facts quickly before we go. Green Flag Racing, here's your aerial shot of where we are in the world. International Speedway. Tonight, we're going to go for 90 laps, 225 miles, just over 360 kilometers around this 2.5-mile tri-oval that has 31 degrees of banking in the turns, 18 degrees of banking in that tri-oval on the front stretch, and 2 degrees of banking on the straights and the back stretch. In sim, a beautiful, balmy, wonderful May 15th, 2021, 70s all around, and the air temp, the track temp, a perfect evening for racing as we'll race into the night as Season 3 of Monday Night Racing begins, and we are underway with the Sim Seats 250.
And early on, back into turn number 1, you'll see everybody pretty much 2 by 2 for the most part, and you see Gary Sexton already trying to hold on to the inside. Will Rogers having a bit of a shove from the 51 of Garrett Smithley, but everybody clean and green as he head out of turn number 2.
Beautiful work there. You see some cars already dropping to the inside. Seth Eggert trying to drop back, and we're seeing the strategy plays in turn already come through, Kenneth. You're watching a lot of these drivers try and get out of where they think the mess will be. The problem, though, is that as we've seen over many races at Daytona, it doesn't matter what kind of car you're using. You can try and avoid the madness, but somehow it seems like there's not really a safe spot anywhere, especially with these Xfinity Series cars.
And that's also, James, with the rest of the super speedways that you'll see. Talladega also will come into factor as you see the 19 machine of Robbie Lyons trying to peek up to the outside, take away the race lead back into turn number 1. And really, anywhere you are on the racetrack, a couple guys are falling back. But in terms of the wrecks, I think keeping the nose clean will be key. But no matter what, chaos might pretty much happen anywhere on this racetrack, but at least for now, James, everybody so far keeping themselves clean. And the 19 machine swerves to the inside. He's your new race leader back to turn 3.
Also of note here, we're using the, shall we say, old draft package. Those who have been in the know on iRacing will know that not only is it the platform that we use for every event in Monday Night Racing, but that the Super Speedway package for the Cup cars was updated for the March build that came out. iRacing, of course, releasing those quarterly updates that you'll see every 3 months or so. So the Cup cars got the brand new package, which is very close to real life. We saw that used in the Pro Invitational Series race at Talladega a few weeks ago. This series, though, and the trucks did not get the new draft package yet. So this is akin to the older draft package, what we're sort of used to seeing with plate racing on iRacing. So you're going to see a lot of double file racing. You're going to see a lot of side-by-side action, and it will get crazy towards the end, Kenneth. I think that's almost guaranteed.
Yeah, but really first, James, you have to get there to the end of the race. We're already in the first couple laps. You see a couple drivers already making some of those moves to go to the front. They kind of maybe anticipate some things to happen near the midfield, and watching practice as they were rolling through, a lot of them going 3 by 3, of course, this kind of configuration in this package tightly within each other in a 2 by 2 format. It does not get any easier, not only on the first couple laps, but when you go all the way to the end, when everyone's really wanting to go for that checkered flag at the end of 90 laps as you're right on board here. It is not going to be easy when you're right on that bumper, trying to keep your temps also under and at least keep them normal while pretty much trying to get the draft and making sure that you end up in the right position to be there at the end.
Riding on board with Garrett Smithley there, the number 51 you see on your screens, and rolling deep with the KSTT CPA colors this evening. Driver who's got plenty of association with Rick Ware Racing. We know KSTT also a big partner of JD Motorsports and Gary Keller in the Xfinity Series. Their colors on a few cars this evening. Gabe Wood also carrying the KSTT colors as well. Smithley, though, sitting right behind your leaders. He rides in the 4th spot, but he's the 3rd car on the inside line, just behind Robbie Lyons, who's sitting there behind our race leader in the Reaper Speed Lab Toyota Supra. That's Gary Sexton in the 13 machine.
And he ended up taking the pole time, so he ends up back out in front. And again, just using that sort of swerve, go back to the outside, get a little bit of a push, and then head back to the race lead. But I am seeing, though, James, a couple of drivers near the rear of the field. You see them all kind of accordion back, mostly on the inside lane. A couple of drivers 3 wide behind the main pack, but at least 4 now, a handful of ones in sort of a second group. And you say a lot of drivers falling back, and that's also going to be very key for them. At least they're trying to maybe find the people they know. That's going to be very important once we get to the end of this one, James. But as for now, so far 2 by 2, I think none of them have pretty much let up at this point.
2x2, and it's about the first 20 rows that have formed up side by side. And you look at the top 5, man in the 5th spot at the moment is the mechanic for Kyle Busch Motorsports, Max Kennan, in the 21 machine. And for our first pit report of the evening on that car, as he decides to drop back here, we'll go to Windsor, Ontario's Justin Prince for a little bit more information. Justin, what do you have for us?
And it's a special paint scheme tonight for Max Kennan for this opening race of the campaign, where his dad was the crew chief for Shane Meal, who drove this specific paint scheme back in 2002, if you remember, in what's now the NASCAR Xfinity Series. During those times, he was around 6 years old, and some of his best memories, he said, as a kid in racing came with being around Shane, where he considered him a true talent behind the wheel. He designed this paint scheme himself for this race tonight. A very special paint scheme for him this evening. He mentioned as well in regards to the race that his strategy in part depended on qualifying, and a lot of discussions with Thomas Miller, his spotter, for tonight. Obviously, the discussion leaning towards dropping back.
So lots of cool stories there. I mean, shoot, if you need anything to sort of date this paint scheme, just look at the rear quarter panel. You got the Stacker 2 logo on there, which was all the rage back in 2002, 2003, 2004. And so I know Kenny Wallace had a few Stacker 2 cars, which were brightly colored and very memorable in what was then the NASCAR Busch Series, now the NASCAR Xfinity Series. As we get one more good look here at Max Kennan's machine, and you can see it right there on the rear quarter panel, the big old Stacker 2, which is about as classically early 2000s as, I don't know, like Crazy in Love or Toxic, or I don't know. Bueno, I know you've got some good taste in music, and you can probably name a few songs there better than I could that would help to date us even further, right?
Well, if you're saying 2002, I mean, I was 1 year old, so I don't even know if I could really understand, comprehend music, but you're looking at least at that paint scheme near the back, but up in the front, Alfredo pushing it 3 wide. He's got help from Devin Henry in the 77 machine. You know, work alongside him in the Impact Cup Series every Sunday night here at Podium Esports, but he's giving that big shove. And from what I'm seeing, James, there's a lot of, at least separation, maybe a lot of switcheroos between a lot of drivers. They're not really keeping themselves content in one spot. You see one driver up in the front, one driver second in lane, all of a sudden everything can change, and already a third line developing with the 75 of Kligerman trying to make some of the work up top.
Well, about Parker Kligerman racing in the Valvoline Toyota Supra there, you know he would love to put on a show. And even though he usually finds his success when we go truck racing on Monday nights, it's usually not a surprise to see the man from technically Westport, Connecticut, racing up towards the front of the field.
And he's trying to make that line work, but as of the moment, I think nobody really wants to at least cooperate with him. And Kligerman, a winner in season number 2, took the win at Trucks in Las Vegas. So the second race of the season, not necessarily a super speedway, but when you call it with the truck package, it basically handles much like one in the short run. So the Kligerman trying to make quick work does not get that success. Everybody's still too wide, and at least Devin Henry still trying to give that push. Meanwhile, Alfredo switches back to the inside. The 19 of Lyons has to hold on to the top, and from what I'm seeing, not much drivers at least falling back. Most of them really wanting to attack, creating an accordion effect as they pack here out of turn 2.
Beautiful work there. Anthony Alfredo nearly got turned coming out of turn 4 the last time by. He threw the block on Robbie Lyons and tried to keep the 19 behind him, but there's so much momentum you get on that top line, and especially on a corner exit. We've seen it in a lot of places, and I think it's a little bit more prominent at Talladega than it is here at Daytona, but I think the principle still remains the same. If you want to go forward and gain spots, you go to that middle line, you go to the high line. You think back to the Coach Series at Talladega last year, where Eric Smith marshaled all of the Slip Angle Motorsports teammates at the time to the center of the racetrack, and they were ultimately able to push Brandon Cattell to the win from that middle lane. I won't be surprised at all, especially given that it's this package that we're running, which is more akin to what they ran last October than what you see with the Cup cars now. It wouldn't be a shocker if we see something similar play out here at the end of this evening.
Yeah, but James, you also have to mention the fact that you need a lot of help at a track like Daytona, especially with this package. With the Cup package, you can kind of hold your own for the most part in some ways with side draft, but with the way the Xfinity Series cars handle, at least in the sim for the most part and in real life, you have to have a lot of help to pick you up to the front. So you can make the middle line work, but if you have nobody like we saw with Kligerman, you'll easily fall back, and you pretty much have to find space anywhere else in order to keep yourself as a part of this draft. But at the moment. Most everybody's staying quick. You see Adam Cabot in his machine trying to work behind David Schildhouse. And the number 20, one of the Twitch streamers of iRacing, trying to make things work on the bottom. The 17, one of the winners in the ERL and actually the champion in the Esports Racing League by Anthony Alfredo. So at least him making his first start Monday Night Racing, doing a pretty good job so far, running just outside the top 10.
And that's a point I wanted to come back to because it's one of the most unique stories entering Season 3 of Monday Night Racing. Anthony and the league administrators here at Monday Night Racing, Ford Martin and Paul Sutton, came together, and Anthony made the point that for the offseason that he wanted to bring back another season of his Esports Racing League, but wanted to switch it up a little bit. Instead of running the NASCAR Cup Series cars at about, shall we say for the most part, A-fix race lanes, instead he wanted to create a mini Monday Night Racing series where you had the same switching of cars and tracks each and every week. So Adam Cabot was one of the drivers in this most recent season of the ERL that took place between seasons 2 and 3 of Monday Night Racing. And Cabot beat out Presley Sora and won the final 3 races of the season to win his way into Monday Night Racing. And it was the great big opportunity for someone who it doesn't necessarily have a direct connection to the industry like most of these drivers in Monday Night Racing do, to race their way and find a way to compete with the Anthony Alfredos and the Parker Kligermans and the David Schildhouses and Dylan Welch's of the world. For a little bit more on that, we'll go to Justin Prince.
And when speaking with Adam Cabot about this opportunity, he called it an absolute privilege to race against the names that are competing tonight. The fact he can compete against a future Hall of Famer and other NASCAR drivers from his living room for a day of work speaks volumes to the service that iRacing created, he said. He also said that a lot about the real-world competitors take the time to put this effort in the community. He said there's a lot of some pressure for tonight, but he said once they're on the racetrack, we're just racers. He essentially said, as the new guy and a rookie as well, his plan is to show other drivers that I'm someone that should be someone you want to work with and hopefully build their confidence in racing around them as the race goes on tonight.
New to the series, but part of the reason why he ran ERL and why Adam and everybody had to come through ERL is that they wanted to see these drivers prove themselves in different disciplines across different kinds of races. So we went road course racing, dirt racing, oval racing, all the above, and Cabot was the fastest driver out of that bunch. So he comes into this well-seasoned and well-prepared for a season full of Monday Night Racing action as we now ride on board with James Bickford out of California, part of the NASCAR Next program once upon a time, and Bickford has the 25 machine up in the top 10 already.
And he's trying to push Gary Sexton, who's fallen back to third on that inside lane. We saw, of course, Gary Sexton leading us to the green flag, led a bit more laps. The driver at Hanover, Pennsylvania, part of Podium Esports himself, tried to make something happen and made this scheme at about the last minute last night on Sunday. But as for now, rocking those flames on his Toyota Supra and currently still right behind the 38 of Anthony Alfredo. But you have to wonder at this point, as one car's loose, they're wrecking behind them, at least a couple cars almost around, and there they go, the biggest crash so far tonight, and our first yellow here in the middle of turn 2.
That was amazing that didn't end up becoming bigger than it was. There were only about 5 or 6 cars involved in that. That's a credit to everybody who managed to slow down and make sure that they didn't end up in trouble. But I saw that start initially with James Bickford and the 78 of Greg Stokes. We'll take a look at the replay and see what happened. But those two were the first ones that I saw get together to start this incident off.
And I saw it just about there. He was wiggling that race car, just trying to keep it straight. But when you're in the middle of a pack like this, James, it is definitely not easy. You see that contact there. I believe Parker Kligerman might have had a hit of that as well. And I believe that Justin Malillo getting almost turned around. A couple of drivers getting damaged. There's one without the front clip off. And you'll take it a look right here from the driver of that 78. Here's the shove from the back going into turn 1 and 2. You'll see the car just unsettle right about here. Car gets very loose, gets into the 25, and everybody else pretty much ricochets. Good amount of drivers end up saving their race cars, but the officials already deemed it as a yellow flag, so he was very loose at the entrance of that corner, James.
I don't even know if he got any help from Kligerman. I'm not sure the 75 made any contact with Stump's car at all. Stump just took a very wide arc into the corner and managed to lose the air off the rear of his Chevy Camaro and then off into the fence. He went with some damage. Justin Malillo got a pretty good piece of this. Looks like the 14 machine was involved. I believe that was Dylan Welch, who didn't really have anywhere to go. David Schildhouse was there. He got some damage, as well as Ron Capps in the number 28 machine. So a handful of drivers with some beat-up race cars there. they're certainly not done for the night by any stretch of the imagination, but definitely going to have to ride behind some folks in order to mitigate the effects of the damage they now have.
And you're looking on board with Adam Cabot. He gets a piece of this as well on the rear side of his race car. And as you're saying there with damage, James, a lot of drivers, these guys have one fast repair available to them tonight. You see Cabot's look right there. There's Schildhaus just kind of pushing him forward. They both clear the wreck, but they do have that one fast repair, so they can kind of burn it off, get a fresh new race car now. But the problem is, it's only lap 18 of 90. We still have a very long way to go in this race. So if you want to burn that fast repair, you run yourself a risk of possibly getting even more damage, having to waste that time on pit road. I think for a lot of others, at least a lot of ones involved now, it is the time to go down pit road, take that extra time, suffer for just a bit, and then work on later, as drivers are now exiting out of pit road with quick stops.
So Justin Malilla, I think, missed his pit stall. He went all the way through pit lane and is going to come around once again. But as you were largely at the front of the field, Robbie Lyons, Gary Sexton, Anthony Alfredo, Devin Henry, and then Ruben Garcia, who had a little bit of damage, comes off pit. We'll take a quick break here and be back with more action. You're watching the season opener for Monday Night Racing, the Sim Seats 250, live from iRacing's Virtual World Center of Racing on Podium Esports.
There's a place where fire and flavor are celebrated, where grilling traditions and new techniques are perfected. Here in Big Green Egg Country, you can grill it, roast it, smoke it, or bake it. It's the most versatile grill you'll ever own. Simple delight, easy to use, comes with a free lifetime warranty. Have it delivered to your door by a certified dealer in your community and start enjoying the ultimate cooking experience. Shop online for home delivery at BigGreenEgg.com. That's BigGreenEgg.com.
When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. There's a reason that Makoni Setup Shop is trusted by more virtual and real-world tracks and companies than any other setup shop in iRacing. With partners such as Stafford Motor Speedway, the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, Five Flag Speedway, Speed 51, and more. When you want something done right, you go to the experts at Makoni Setup Shop.
With setups available for most series on both asphalt and dirt, built by a team of professional builders consisting of some of the top talents on the service, Makoni Setup Shop LLC has what you need to hit the track with confidence. Head over to MakoniSetupShop.com and learn why Makoni Setup Shop is the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports and is partnered with some of the largest names in virtual and real racing.
And remember, at Makoni Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
Welcome back to Podium Esports coverage of the Sim Seats 250. Live from iRacing's virtual Daytona International Speedway in Daytona Beach, Florida. James Pine, Kenneth Bueno, a pit reporter Justin Prince, and Ryan Bauer here to bring you all the action as Season 3 of Monday Night Racing kicks off from the Virtual World Center of Racing as we've got cars getting ready to come down the start-finish line for our first restart of the evening, which will take place on lap 20 of 90. Robbie Lyons, the man to bring us back to green flag action at Daytona.
Going off with a quick start as always, most of them staying 2 by 2. Sexton going to try to get this push from Devin Henry up to the outside. Most of them pushing through the gears. That's going to be something to watch out for. A little bit of a bump to the rear end, hoping it doesn't get too loose. But as for then, bunch of cars, about 6 to 7 cars working that outside lane. Some separated down low, but they stay clean as they head back out the 2.
Lyons on the inside, Sexton on the outside, Devin Henry with a good push on the 13 machine. Here comes Matt Stolbeck to try and go through the middle, and he nearly forced Henry all the way high. He will indeed force Henry up high into that third lane. Nowhere for the number 77 to go, so Henry will ride up top. Sexton will maintain that first spot on the outside line, and Stolbeck will become the second car in line as Henry continues to slide back.
You might want to think that Henry took that in and probably kept some notes or maybe wrote down some notes on that, just staying in line and maybe just defending from drivers who want to split him in the middle. That's going to happen more, James, once we get to the later portions of this race, as Alfredo gets a huge shove to turn 1. He'll go to the race lead. However, you will see that happen a lot. You'll see most of the drivers near the end of the race try to push in many of those lines, especially through the middle. For Henry, that was the case, and you see the 21 even further behind. As one car gets turned, that's the 12 machine with the 77 of Henry. They almost go around. One of them goes around, and already after our first yellow, we have our second one quickly back to turn 3.
A rash of yellows starting us off as we approach the first third of the Sim Seats 250, and it's the Sim Seats machine of Brandon Brown out of West Virginia. In trouble with this incident. We'll see what happened with the 12 car here on the replay, but looks like there was just an errant shove, and indeed there was. Henry just did not get squared up with the 12 car, and the 25 machine of James Bickford also picks up some damage in this crash as well, Kenneth.
You'll see it here from the rear end cam, just trying to give that shove, give the push to the back straightaway. You see already there, the bumpers just misaligned there on the Chevrolet Camaro, Devin Henry, the Toyota Supra, and the 12 of Brandon Brown. He gets turned around and kind of went over the radio just right after it happened, and you see the extra damage carried by that third car. And just what it is, Pike, as soon as I said it on the restart, have to watch for those bumps. And that same bump sent the number 12 of Brown around, and you see there the other car gets involved as well. Bickford also with damage.
Sounds like there was a lot of activity on the radios just a few moments ago. Justin Prince, what were you picking up from the field?
A lot of tempers, to say the very least, from Brandon Brown. He was not happy, to say the very least, after the contact. And this was something, keep in mind, that drivers had talked about with me before the race, and in some of their streams, keep in mind, was the concern about drivers trying to be used to bump drafting and aligning the bumpers. There was the fear that there could be one bad bump that could end up being misaligned, and unfortunately, that's our first incident of that for tonight.
What's so intriguing to this incident, and what stands out to me, Kenneth, is that so many drivers had just backed off of the front group off of the initial restart. We were only about half a lap in or so before we got the wreck, or maybe a lap and a half. But in either case, there were so many drivers who were laying back towards the back end of the field as if they almost expected something to happen there.
Well, at tracks like Daytona, tracks like Talladega, I think you have to expect chaos at every corner of this racetrack. I don't think you can go a moment without expecting something to go down. So at least for most of them hanging back in, we saw that on the opening restart, or start at least. We saw that on pretty much the second restart. We see drivers going back down, laying back, holding in, maybe going with some of the drivers they already are accustomed to working with. And at least with that expectation, they were correct. The problem is, I'm not sure whether they can predict the rest of this race. Maybe they'll try to employ this strategy later. But for most, using that back strategy to hold back, I think seemingly worked for a lot of them.
Saved a lot of cars. As we remind you that tonight's broadcast of this race, the Sim Seats 250, is brought to you by our friends at Sim Seats. Since 2009, Sim Seats has been designing and fabricating high-quality driving simulators, including motion systems, custom fabricated parts, and complete turnkey iRacing packages, all made in the United States of America. Their customer base includes all kinds of drivers, from amateurs to professionals, and their passion for racing drives them to build better sim racing equipment. Don't limit your track time to the weekend. Visit www.sim-seats.com for more information. Looks like Brandon Brown has used his fast repair while we get a better look at his Toyota Supra. Maybe not a surprise after the incident that he picked up. And that is an interesting strategy play that I think we have to talk about pretty much every time we go through here, as we also can confirm that Devin Henry has picked up a one-lap penalty from race control. They've deemed him to be the cause of that second yellow flag, so Henry will slide a little bit further back into this field. But the fast repair is something I think we have to bring up because it's unique to sim racing, Kenneth, but it's also something that, so long as you don't have engine damage that would legitimately end your race, you can hang on to that with some damage if you want to. And I think there are some drivers towards the back that are doing just that. Justin Malillo has not used his fast repair. I don't think we've seen David Schildhaus get into it with his fast repair yet. So we've got some drivers who are waiting to use that fast repair because they think that this is not the last yellow we're going to have.
Yeah, and that's really one of the key things about fast repairs in this sim, and the fact that you only have one. Of course, if you have more than one, you can use different strategies, but having that one, like I said earlier, it's that duality. Are you willing to risk using the fast repair now, get some of that damage, or are you willing to wait all the way to the end, hoping that you can go down pit road, whether it be through green flag pit stops or yellow flag pit stops, get that clean car, be back out and going in no time. That's something that a lot of drivers have to think about, and obviously one of the great things about the sim is that you can already repair your car in just about 2 seconds. In real life, they don't have that. So at least in that sort of segment, it works out for them, but it's going to be interesting. I see a couple cars that already use their fast repairs, but as for most, some with no damage, they're waiting to use that, already hoping that maybe the chance that they go down pit road could be the clean car, go back on a track, try to be there to the finish.
I'm trying to just make sure you have something for the finish, which is also, I think, the same strategy we're seeing out of Ruben Garcia. I see some damage on the front end of his Toyota Supra, so he, too, has yet to use his fast repair, even though he has damage. Gary Sexton, though, your leader, coming back to green for the 3rd time this evening. We'll go back racing once more. Lap 24 of 90 up on the board now, 25 that we worked through, and already some lane switching a little bit further back in the pack as Sexton and Anthony Alfredo lead this field off into the high banks of turn 1.
And Stallnick did not get a good run to the inside. Really, nobody got a good run to the inside. I don't think they were expecting Gary Sexton to get that big of a run on this restart, so that allows Anthony Alfredo to get the big run out of turn 2. He'll have the push from Robbie Lyons in the 19. A lot of drivers swerving back to the inside, making some of that space for the 5 cars up top already with a power charge back to turn 3.
Parker Kligerman drops down to the inside as Gary Sexton gets a good run from Matt Stolbeck. He'll ease ahead by about a car length. Stolbeck draws even with Anthony Alfredo, while Will Rogers does the same with Robbie Lyons in the road just behind them. Parker Kligerman, Ruben Garcia there too. And then the yellow machine. First time we've had the chance to call Steven Ellis' name, but the follow Eric Bedoin, Chevy Camaro up in the front. And the reporter for the Hockey News, yes, if you can believe it, we got some hockey NASCAR crossovers here. And I suppose he won't be totally surprised if we see a hip check or two at Daytona, because he knows a little bit about it when they take to the ice. But I have a feeling Steven Ellis will be right at home here in the not-too-distant future. And a veteran of Monday Night Racing, he competed in seasons 1 and 2 as well.
You talk about hip check, you talk about different sports. As a driver that comes from a different sport, reports for the NFL, Mike Clay of ESPN in the car right behind him in the 88 machine. He rides just behind him, giving that shove. So I mean, maybe both of them know a little bit about hip checking here, and maybe a lot of contact. Maybe Daytona could be that place to use that. But what I'm noticing here, James, is that there's sort of this big pack. I think what we saw is that a large pack developed in that first sort of opening segment of the race, but for now we have about a handful of cars back to 11th place Adam Cabot that's kind of spread themselves away from the field. You may have to think that drivers behind them may be using the same strategy you said earlier, staying in the back, trying to stay out of trouble.
Potentially, I think so. I also like the fact I completely missed it, and I'm glad you pointed it out, that we do have the hockey reporter and the football reporter right next to each other. So we're missing, what, a baseball reporter and then a basketball reporter, which
probably.
I know which one you'd take of those two by a landslide.
Yeah, they probably have to be from the Miami Heat too. I think that would also help. Maybe the Miami Herald. I don't know. That could also be a potentially good one. Maybe we'll see that hopefully in Monday Night Racing. But
I mean, hey, to be fair, Heat did get the victory last night. So
yeah, they did. But I mean, they're kind of riding in the play-in tournament territory. So it's a little scary. I'll tell you that much.
I would say the Miami Knights uniforms are as undefeated as Anthony Alfredo's Xfinity car, which, in fairness, he has not lost a race when driving with that scheme. The control mule replacement for Mustang went to victory at Auto Club Speedway in Season 2. And he's trying to break a streak that Kyle Busch has controlled when we get to super speedway racing with the stock cars. It was Kyle Busch, if you remember, who went to victory at the beginning of Season 2 back in November of last year. We took the Cup cars to Talladega on that night. This time it's the Xfinity cars at Daytona, and Alfredo looking to try and get a win and build his case back up towards the championship 4, where he was so close to fighting for the title properly in the trucks at Atlanta back in March, but had a power issue with his computer and lost about 10 laps and never could quite make the ground back up. It was an unfortunate set of circumstances that kept him out of contention. But if there's one difference I think he wants to see in Season 3, in addition to that, I think it would be getting on the win column a little bit earlier because it took a while for Anthony Alfredo to get a victory in Season 2. He had to wait until the end of the regular season at Homestead Miami Speedway before he won. And then when he finally did get the victory lane, they just started to rattle off. It was 1, 2, 3, all right there in a quick span. And I would think that getting a victory early on in Monday Night Racing Season 3 and locking yourself in the playoffs, definitely a high goal for the man out of Connecticut who wants to again fight for the Monday Night Racing title.
I think it's funny, James. You mentioned Miami Knights uniform. You mentioned Anthony Alfredo and his first win of Season 2 at Homestead and Miami Speedway, so maybe that can connect in a little bit of ways. But just saying it there, getting that win early, getting to start off on a good foot, and I think I can refer to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series back in Daytona when Michael Conti got the victory. Just getting that win, even if it's in the first race of the season so early, just gives you that big sigh of relief. You know you're going to be fighting for a championship. You won't have to worry about all the sneaky points battles that go on throughout the rest of the season, so you can carry that checkered flag, keep yourself stealthy for the most part, and run up to the front when playoff time comes. And for now, that's really what Anthony Alfredo is doing as he heads back to the inside for the race lead back to turn 1.
Also of note, it was a one-car incident and no yellow flag for it, but Chris Wilder got loose on the entry to turn 3. The reporter for the Motor Racing Network and man from NASCAR Productions, big trouble for the 26 car. He smacked the fence hard over in 3 and 4 and is now fallen completely out of the draft. We'll take a look at it here, and you see the back end of the incident where he nearly shot at the racetrack, but yeah, almost looked like there might have been a malfunction of some form with Wilder's wheel or something. And cars don't usually turn straight like that. And when we got to the banking, his car never went to the left. So I wonder if there may be a wheel or a pedal issue or something with Chris's rig.
Yeah, there definitely might have been a hardware issue there for the 26. He's trying to limp around on the back straightaway with Greg Summon 78, who we saw got in that first incident. So, I mean, usually don't see that unless they get a flat tire, but here in iRacing, it's pretty much rare to get a flat tire, especially running all by yourself or you haven't run that many laps at a track that doesn't necessarily wear out the tires too much. So we'll try to monitor that. That's also going to be big, those two all the way mirrored back in the field, just hoping they don't get a lap down. They're fighting for position back around, I believe, back to 34. So being all the way stuck in the backfield, at least in the mid part of this race, is not a very good strategy and not a good place you want to be for now.
It's not a bad place to be at all. I think we've only got about maybe 9, 10, call it 11 cars proper in this lead pack as you ride on board with Mike Clay in the number 88 machine. You've got the 11, and then you've got the quartet of David Shildowns, Garrett Smithley, Josh Slate, and Max Kinnon running just behind that group. And then again, about 1.3 seconds to James Davison, Shane Van Gisbergen, Ryan Vargas, Seth Eggert, Raja Carew, TJ Majors, and Preston Pardis in the third group chasing down the leaders. And a bit of Australian Kiwi teamwork there coming up. You've got Davison, the Australian, and Van Gisbergen, the New Zealander, working together, and two very talented drivers in their own right. Davison, we know his exploits both with Rick Ware Racing in NASCAR and IndyCar, and Van Gisbergen, who has done some great work in sports car racing. He's a winner in GTD at the World X24. He's also a Supercars champion. For those who don't know, the domestic series down in Australia, incredibly popular in that part of the world, and fantastic racing to watch. If you've never had the chance, go look it up on YouTube or elsewhere, because it's wonderful, wonderful racing to see. And Van Gisbergen, not only a champion, but currently leading the points in Supercars. So somebody that has some experience in the real world, but also is an avid sim racer, much like another driver from Supercars fame who has moved on now to IndyCar, but Scott McLaughlin, also someone who has put plenty of time into iRacing and now is racing for Roger Penske in the NTT IndyCar Series. So a bit of, I guess, a good sign there. If you're good in supercars and you run iRacing a lot, usually it means you're going to have some speed somewhere. And I think once we get to the road courses this season, I would expect Van Gisbergen to be very successful some way or another.
Yeah, and that's going to be very big here, James. And that's something that's so unique to the Monday Night Racing category, is that you're going to have so many different combos, so many different cars, so many different tracks in so many different ways. So the fact that maybe you're not so excellent here at maybe, let's say, Bristol during the trucks at least 2 weeks from now, but maybe you're better at Lime Rock with the Mazda MX-5s. There's so many opportunities for drivers who are maybe better at different segments of racing, whether it be road course racing, off-road racing, oval racing. There's just so many of that. And for guys like Gisbergen and maybe the 15 at Davison, a lot of that road course prowess comes in. And Davison, a winner twice in a row, IndyCar at Auto Club in the oval, Porsche 911s at Motorsport. So I think he has a very good key on how to win on both disciplines here in the sim in this league.
You know, he's got plenty of experience. As you look at that lead pack once again, it's still about 10 machines running nose to tail as they work their way through turns 1 and 2 at the World Center of Racing as Matt Stallback goes sideways in turn 2 to bring out the yellow flag. And somehow that wasn't a bigger incident. We've had a lot of cases already, Kenneth, where there are cars that have gone sideways and you figure at some point we're going to have a bigger incident, and yet everybody saves it. But I think that's also because we've got so many drivers who are spread out. This time it was contact with Ruben Garcia that sent the 41 around.
And actually for the 41, luckily no damage to a Chevrolet Camaro at all. But what I did notice is that Ryan Vargas got heavy front end damage behind them. I believe just trying to slow up for this wreck as we were looking at them earlier. Take a look at the 41. You see him go half sideways. Davison also with a semi-spin, but they both end up saving their race cars. And there's Ryan Vargas. Huge damage to the front end of his number 6 Chevrolet Camaro. Throw back to Mark Martin. You'll see it here on the replay, just trying to slow for the wreck and big contact as they head to turn 1.
Just couldn't get slowed up in time. It will ride on board with Vargas and see what happened. Looks like there may have been contact with somebody just up ahead of him. Van Gisbergen went high, and it was James Davison that he got in the back of and nearly turned Davison around. So very, very wild moments here as we go under caution one more time. We're going to see a lot of these drivers, I think, come down pit road at some point.
Yeah, and I think that refers back, James, to what we were talking about on the saving fast repairs. Maybe for some of these drivers with damage, could be that opportunity now that we're closing in on halfway in this race. So maybe that could also help. Maybe for Vargas, I think he probably would have to burn this fast repair now. Possibly engine damage to his car. So we'll have to try and see on that. It's probably going to be 4 tires and fuel. Going to try to make it to the end of this race. And strategy-wise, I think a lot of these drivers are happy to see these yellows come out. They know they can go down pit road without any sort of hesitation or any sort of pressure. They're going to go down, nail their stops, be good till most of this race. At least put Alfredo and a handful of others will decide to stay out.
How about that? There's some pit strategy for you. So Alfredo and Ellis decide to stay out, and Lyons and pretty much everybody else are going to come down pit road for service. Let's see if Lyons can be the first car out of his stall and see if there are any issues amongst the field that come down pit road. Looks like a clean stop in the box for the 19, though. So Lyons will looks like maybe some gas only. I don't see him taking any tires, and indeed just a splash for the 19 car. Same for Will Rogers, but Gary Sexton, by virtue of winning the pole and earning that first pit stall at the end of pit road, is able to beat everybody out and jump ahead of Lyons, of Rogers. David Schildhouse, he gained a few spots to go back up, so he'll be third in line when they restart. It's time to bring in our Brian Shock Technology in-race reporter for the first time this evening. How about the man who was just involved in our most recent yellow flag, Matt Stolnagh? And Matt, you had a wild ride there. Just take us through what happened.
Yeah, you guys, it's just crazy one there. I'm pretty sure that was my fault. I'm still kind of getting used to this new sim rig here at Fox Sports Studios. Guys are gracious enough to let me come by and give it a spin today, and definitely a lot more sophisticated than my rig, and the closing rates are a little bit different. So all good, saved it. I'll have to go back and look at the replay, but I think whoever was behind me just kind of hooked me, and I think I just came down a little bit too late. But no harm, no foul. It should be good to get right back in there and climb back up to the lead. I felt like we had a lot of speed, and the racing was fun so far tonight.
I would say that's the biggest story, though, of all, that you are actually in the very same rigs that are used on the Fox Sports 1 broadcast for the Pro Invitational Series, the same ones that we're going to see Clint Boyer and Joey Logano race in when we get to Darlington on Wednesday night. What kind of experience is that to use some of the most famous rigs in all of sim racing?
Well, I figured out what I'm going to have to open up a new savings account and start saving, because I think I found a new long-term purchase that I want for myself. This thing is amazing. You got like a full, I think about a 45-inch widescreen, incredible sim rig here. We're pulling about 140 frames a second on this thing. Just unbelievable. I mean, just incredible setup that they got over here for the Pro Invitational guys, and it's just amazing to kind of be able to kind of sit in the same place that guys like Gordon and Logano and Boyer have sat in, and just privileged to kind of feel like I'm a part of it, and hope to put a win on this thing tonight and go from there. It's very cool.
So, we'll see if we can get you a few, I guess, $1,000 more to get yourself set up in a rig. But for now, we'll let you get back into the back of the field and formulate your strategy to make another charge towards the front. Thanks for the time, Matt. We'll chat with you a little bit later.
You got it, guys. Appreciate all you do.
Matt Solonak working in the NASCAR offices in uptown Charlotte, North Carolina, with the paint scheme delivered by Harris Liu at Liu Creative, who's had his fingers on a lot of stuff. This is a big week for a lot of the designers in the NASCAR community. They get tasked to put together the throwbacks that you're going to see in the Goodyear 400 at Darlington Raceway Sunday, when the Fox folks take over and bring us a throwback on Mother's Day for the first time in 2021. I know Harris in particular, I know he's responsible for the Chase Elliott scheme, which apes the 1992 championship winning car of Alan Kawicki, the famous Hooters Underbird. I know there are a few more in that bunch, and lots of great schemes that we'll see all throughout the weekend. But for now, lights are off on the pace car. We'll go back green flag racing on lap 39, coming to 40 here of 90 in the Sim Seats 250 at the virtual Daytona.
Gotta wonder how the top two staying out, whether their strategy is going to work out moving forward. But as for now, a lot of the field spreading out almost about 3 wide. I think that was Adam Cabot to the top of this field trying to make something stick. He'll get passed through the middle, sift himself right back to that second lane. But Anthony Alfredo, again, he's been the master of the restart so far. Maybe not anymore. Gary Sexton with a big shove. He goes to the race lead to the back straightaway.
There are a few schools of thought when it comes to restrictor plate racing. One is to sit in the back and wait for everything to pan out in front of you and give yourself enough space to avoid it. The other is to control this thing from the front. And for Gary Sexton and Will Rogers, like, it's very clear as to what they want to do. Lead from the front and let everybody else come and chase them, as Max Kennan nearly got turned. I think that was David Schildhouse that just about got into the 21 machine and nearly wrecked coming off for 4. But we'll stay green flag racing for the moment, with Sexton on the inside, Rogers on the outside as they head to turn 1, and Parker Klingerman trying to make it happen with Adam Cabot up top.
Well, he failed once. He's going to try again, and this time with just a little bit of help. Adam Cabot going to give that shove, maybe going to give him enough. They'll fall back for now, but as for the rest of them, they continue to stay 2 by 2. Anthony Alfredo again switches back to the top, and he does not want to stay near the back of the field. He does not want to stay conservative. He is still now side by side with the 13 of Gary Sexton, with a push from Will Rogers trying to get back to the race lead once more.
Anthony Alfredo talked to us last week at the end of the ERL season, and he said he was looking forward to Daytona just because he hasn't won a big-time plate race in the sim in a while. The last time he got a victory here was in the opening race, the first ever race in the Cup cars for the Esports Racing League, all the way back in February of 2020. It was featured on the Xfinity broadcast at Auto Club Speedway that weekend, and Anthony wants to make a few more moves and have a bit more fun and get another big win at the World Center of Racing, starting off your Monday night racing season with the victory at Daytona. I don't think would hurt in that regard, and he's going to go to the front. He gets that good run on the high line with help from Will Rogers and Stephen Ellis, and will drive ahead of Gary Sexton and drop to the bottom to clear.
I think that's what we've been seeing so far, James, out of Anthony Alfredo, is that he's really able to command a lot of the drivers around him, to give him good pushes, and his placement, at least of his Ford Mustang, has been on the excellent side, and most of that positioning is what's given him this spot to be here at the race lead. Will Rogers may have something to say about it as Stephen Ellis smacks the outside wall, and he'll get into the 90 machine, almost about go around. He'll go to the inside of turn 1. A couple drivers trying to slow down. Caution does not wait. We stay green.
So Ellis bounced out of the racing surface, and nobody else ended up wrecking, at least for the moment. I'm watching the back of the field to make sure we don't have any more incidents, but it looks like we're going to get away cleanly. And though Ellis had a wild ride there for a moment, we will stay green flag racing. Looks like, I couldn't tell if he got help from Robbie Lyons or just got loose, but bounces off of one of the cars up towards the front. That may have been a Parker Kluman, Roger Caruth, and then now the yellow flag's going to come out at the very end of this, and I'm not quite sure where the yellow flag comes out for here behind all the mess that Stephen Ellis started, but yellow flag out once again at Daytona.
I think it might be Drew Welker in the 64 who got heavy damage. He went back to pit road, and it seems as though maybe he had something in it, but I believe Roger Caruth also got a piece of this as well. This was near the rear of the field, James, so we saw that opening incident in the front pack. but at least near the rear, that's where a lot of these drivers got into incident. I think that's where Caruth got involved, handful of others involved as well, and that's what brings us to this second yellow flag. Him with just a little bit of damage. I'm not exactly sure. Actually, he's still up to the front, so a couple drivers near the rear got into it, and at least it was in this front pack.
You can tell that Welker got the damage with help from Dylan Welch, who got into James Bickford, who then got into the 64 machine, but that was on the last pit stop on that last yellow. So lots of incidents here and a lot of field spread out, and we'll see who comes down pit road this time after we had a few folks stay out last time, most notably Anthony Alfredo.
And I'm gonna be curious to see, and it was him and Steven Ellis that stayed out. I'm pretty sure Ellis is with that wall contact. He's gonna definitely go in, but as for Alfredo, we'll try to see exactly whether he ends up in. He'll stay out. Caruth and some others will end up going in. So there's, I believe, TJ Majors, the 19 of Robbie Lyons. They're also going to make their trips down pit road. So as for Alfredo, he's still waiting for a certain part of this race to go down pit road, expecting a lot more yellows. There's a 63 of Raja going down pit road, handful of others already getting their service, at least trying to get some fuel to make it to the end.
You could make it potentially, but you're going to need a few yellow flags, I think, at this stage. But if you come down now for service, you certainly could try and stretch it. There's at least that option. But it'd be tight, and you definitely need yellows, which I'm not going to rule out as impossible, given the way this has panned out already. I would expect a few more yellows before we finish this off. But that just would be tough at this stage to gauge, and I feel like there's so many variables floating around at this point that it's hard to put together a good strategy. You're sort of reliant on what else happens amongst this field. And if there's one thing that's been consistent, it's that we've seen a lot of unpredictable wrecks, primarily because drivers have gotten loose, Kenneth, more than anything else. It hasn't necessarily been a contact thing. They've just more lost the air off the rears of their cars.
That's also one thing to note here, James, about at least the differences between what we see in the Cup cars and the Super Speedways versus what we see on the Xfinity Series cars. And I think they loosen these cars a lot more. And I think, to reference, maybe at a track probably way bigger, way different, the iRacing Super Speedway, a lot of drivers had trouble going into the banking, going into the corners at such high speeds and losing their race cars. And we're seeing maybe that sort of same effect here at Daytona in the draft, the air and the way it's getting pushed around. It's kind of sifting drivers in different directions, causing them to get loose, and I think that's a big amount of what we've seen in terms of our yellows so far. So I think to note that, although the grip levels are going up with the way the sun is setting, you have to also mention the fact that you're going to be in the draft, your car is probably going to get unsettled at some point, whether it be in the midst of the pack or whether it be from a push from somebody else.
Take a moment to remind you that tonight's broadcast of Monday Night Racing is brought to you by Makoni Setup Shop, the home for iRacing setups and the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports. From asphalt to dirt, Makoni Setup Shop's team of professional setup builders has it all. It's simple. You can't beat the best, so don't settle for the rest. For more information, visit their website at www.makonisetupshop.com and grab all the setups you need today. Time to talk to our other Brian Shock Technology in-race reporter, Ford Martin. And Ford, you've just been riding around in the back. I think you figured that we'd see some madness towards the front, but did you expect as much madness as we've seen in the opening half of this race?
Not so far, but I've really enjoyed laying in the back here a little bit. You know, I can keep up with a little bit of Fred's hockey here, challenging for a playoff spot, so somewhat keeping up with that, just riding in the back here. So having some fun here. The Jack Daniels Tennessee Honey Chevrolet is it's been pretty good. We've just been taking our time and just having some fun with it. So as far as guys racing up there, wish we kept it a little bit cleaner. Had a couple blinkers here and there, but I'd say it's pretty fun back here. It's Daytona under the lights.
Daytona under the lights. I'm guessing you're hoping that the Preds don't go to OT so that you can't be totally distracted.
No, I'm fully focused. During cautions, I check in on it, but no, it's. I mean, me and Stallneck right here in the Fox Studios having some fun, so it's a good time.
Ford, we'll let you get back to it. Thanks for the time. We'll chat with you later.
Thanks, guys.
That's Ford Martin. He, too, also in the Fox Studios up in northeastern Charlotte, getting set to get after it with Matt Stallneck. Those two running in the rigs that Clinton Boyer and Joey Logano use on a Wednesday nights as we go back to Green Flag Racing on lap 47 of 90 with Sexton and Alfredo at the front.
And much like I believe that last restart, more separation with that front group versus practically everybody else. And one driver that I don't believe we have mentioned too much here tonight, Garrett Smithling, the 51, he ends up back in this group. He was hanging near about a third pack in the mid portion of this race, but he's already getting that draft team catching up to the 20 of David Schildhouse, and that KSDT Chevrolet Camaro already back on the move from what it used to be a little bit earlier. So Smithley on his way back in as mostly that first group continues to remain 2x2. Sexton and Alfredo still fighting for this race lead out to turn 4.
Got a group there, and then you've got the two KSDT CPA machines just about nose to tail there. You've got Garrett Miller in between them, but that bright blue there. Smithley's the first car in line. The second car in line, Gabe Wood. We've not talked about the drive out of Valdosta, Georgia all that much, but part of the crew for JD Motorsports and Gary Keller, and may have had one of the best moments of the banquet for Season 2. For those who were watching, you may remember that he and Matt Stalneck had a little run-in when we took these Xfinity Series cars to Richmond, and poor Gabe ended up with a very torn up right front fender. So Gabe got creative, and with the help of his good buddy Ryan Vargas, who drives the 6 for JD, they managed to go grab the right front fender from Gabe's virtual car and brought it into real life. And he gave Matt that right front fender as a parting gift from Season 2 when we got together at GoPro Motorplex a few weeks ago. So soon becoming reality in that sense, and I would hope that that fender's hanging very proudly in Matt Stalneck's house somewhere. It's a pretty good piece here, but part of a cool illustration of the camaraderie that a lot of these drivers are building up together, because this is the same network at the end of the day. It's a lot of folks who are based in the Charlotte area, so you've got a lot of folks who see each other on a regular basis, and yes, maybe you have some hot and heavy moments on the racetrack, but good to see everybody having a little bit of fun with it and starting to bond in real life as well.
And I think I'm going to refer back to, I know you were there, James, at the GoPro Motorplex when they went racing there with the go-karts, that a lot of these drivers here in this series, a lot of them were meeting for the first time, and they had built up maybe sort of an acquaintanceship on this sim over the past handful of months in this very series, and then you meet them in real life to go go-kart racing, and that also brings in, or at least strengthens that relationship. You kind of know them, you've met them in real life, and also you continue to race them now in Season 3. So such a great way you say there, camaraderie between these drivers, and maybe those relations, maybe that fender, I kind of want to take a picture of that fender, or at least see a picture of that fender. I've never seen it before, but it seems, hoping it's clean at least, and it's gorgeous sitting wherever it may be sitting. But nonetheless, the camaraderie is really working on this high side, James. Seeing a lot of drivers move up here. A lot of drivers are down to the inside, but most trying to peek their way up top and give a run, especially Adam Cabot and Parker Kligerman there behind the 38 machine.
Also, speaking of JD Motorsports, we mentioned Gabe Wood just a moment ago. Also worth mentioning that the man he got help from, Ryan Vargas, not too far back, and running some very familiar colors for those who know the history of the number 6 very well. That is indeed Mark Martin's scheme from 1992 to 1995. The first few years he ran with the Valvoline colors. That's exactly what that car looked like. This time, it's going to be Monarch Roofing that's adorning Vargas's machine when he goes racing in real life on Saturday for the NASCAR Xfinity Series Tackles Arlington. And for more on the man at La Mirada, California, we turn to our very own Justin Prince.
And he had to use the fast repair a couple cautions ago in that incident he was involved in. He had said he did not originally want to do that, but he is currently saying he wants to let everybody go over the radio. He feels he can make it to the end on here. In fact, he said on his stream he is not planning to pit the rest of the way at that 46 laps to go caution. He mentioned fuel strategy potentially come into play. It might come into play with Ryan Vargas. He is planning to try and get to the end.
So Vargas is going to try and stay out. Also worth noting that he has already used up his fast repair by virtue of the damage that he got when he got into James Davison off of turn 2 some 10 laps ago. So big issue there that Vargas is going to have to take note of. As we ride on board with Parker Kligerman running the actual Valvoline car. Vargas has got the Valvoline colors, but very well represented as Kligerman tries to push Alfredo to the front.
And speaking of which, that 75 is pushing that 38. 38 of Alfredo, he is also not pitted. He's gone 34 laps so far in this race without going down pit road. There already were a couple moments where he could have. So although we have Ryan Vargas with that strategy, we may also have one up at the front. The worst part for Alfredo, though, which I'm curious about, is the fact that he's up leading a pack on the outside, and he's wasting a lot more fuel than anyone else in the draft. So as for Vargas, he's holding back, but maybe the opposite strategy here with Alfredo, that he's up in the front being aggressive, and he's also staying out for the most part.
Yeah, definitely a lot of strategies in play, and I think some of it is very much dependent on how your race is panned out and whether or not you still have a faster pair, which to that end, you'd argue that maybe a Sexton or an Alfredo or a Kligerman or a Rogers are in pretty good shape so long as they don't wreck too early. That would be my concern. If these drivers at the front start racing all over each other for that top spot and they get into it and they have to burn their faster pairs with 20 laps to go, 25 laps to go, 30 laps to go, 35 laps to go, which we're about to jump in on here. So keep your eyes peeled and see where that goes.
And still that second pack continues in that first wave. They continue to remain about a handful, maybe 4 to 5 cars up there. And you got to think that we saw the third line getting tested out by Parker Kligerman, but I really haven't seen too many other drivers utilize that. And I have to probably to be curious at least that they'll use it with about maybe less than 20 to go, maybe even later than that, because we'll see a lot more moves get planned in. And especially as traffic may come to accordion like we're seeing here with guys like Devin Henry and Mike Clay, there also may be some possibilities to expand to a third line, make something work. But as for now, you're riding along with David Shithouse to the bottom. He's only got cars up top. It's the only thing the spotter's really telling him apart from the draft behind him.
Keep an eye here. Also, big thanks to our friend Moonhead for the follow. We know Travis has got a few friends in this, a content creator for Kligerman Sport, and boss man Parker Kligerman and teammate David Shieldhouse are both in this race. And if you're so inclined, once we're done a little bit later, you can catch the playoff race for the Moon Car Premier Series tonight over on his Twitch channel. So be ready for some more action. We know that it'll be a good gosh almighty dang fun time over there later on this evening when we get to it. But for now, pretty good racing that we have here at Daytona in this SimSeats 250, where they have started to bunch together up towards the front. And as they continue to fight for the race lead, we will take our moment to bring you tonight's iRacing Midway Race Break, which is brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport. Virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in Australian supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the world of outlaws, and more. Right now, Gary Sexton is your race leader ahead of Anthony Alfredo. Will Rogers, Parker Kligerman, and Ruben Garcia complete your top 5. 6th at the line last time by was Adam Cabot. David Shieldhouse 7th. 8th went to Brent Baldock. Brandon Brown was 9th, and Devin Henry completed the top 10.
Garrett Miller near the tail end of this first pack rides 11th with Mike Clay behind him in the 12th position, followed by Seth Eggert in the 57 to 13th. Preston Pardis in the 90 machine has gone from 31st on the grid to the 14th current running position. Roger Caruth will complete your top 15 and goes TJ Majors to 16th, 17th to DJ Cummings. Max Stolnick in the 41 will be back to 18th. Juan Caps has found his way to the 19th running position, and Joshua Slate in the 1 machine goes from 17th on the grid, 3 spots down, but he ends up in this top 20.
21st at the line was Max Kinnon. 22nd, Ryan Vargas. Garrett Smidley runs in 23rd, and 24th alongside James Davison. 25th is where Shane Van Gisbergen sits. 26th to Robbie Lyons. James Pickford is 27th. 28th to Gabe Wood. Steve Affont in 29th, and 30th to Stephen Ellis. Justin Malello rides in the 31st spot. 32nd was Chris Wilner. Mark Rubilas, 33rd, and 34th was Greg Stump. Paul Sutton holds the 35th position at this time. 36th is Ford Martin. Michael Massey, Drew Welker, Dylan Welch completing your full field rundown. And that concludes tonight's iRacing Midway Race Break. With over 170,000 drivers on the service and over 90 laser scan tracks and cars to choose from, iRacing is your portal to the racing world. Get on track today at iRacing.com. Passing some lap traffic at the front, but again, Sexton, Rogers, Alfredo, Kligerman, Garcia, we call those names pretty much all night long so far, Kenneth Plato, but we also know how wild this can get and how much things can change over the course of the next 30 laps or so.
Yeah, and with Daytona, again, just like I said, you can't really expect or predict what's really going to happen. And for these guys up in the front, they're not sure whether maybe one driver will make a mistake, the margin of error is so low, they get into a big wreck, and all of a sudden, we have a caution with maybe 30 laps to go on the next restart. Guys can pit, go on strategy, and that's also going to be very big. So for a lot of these drivers, even in this pack, or even guys just hanging back, they have to kind of watch what's going to happen, because you can really never understand how things are going to pan out. Then all of a sudden, cautions could breed cautions, and you have a completely different complexion of this SimSeats 250.
continuing to work here, continuing to roll, looking off the rear deck lid of Gary Sexton. But again, it's that top 13 just sort of hanging out towards the front. And then you got everybody in a line just behind Preston Pardis. You see Raja Karuk, TJ Majors, DJ Cummings, Matt Stoldak, Ron Capps, Josh Slate. They are all single file all the way back to Stephen Ellis in 30th, who's the last car that's part of this initial group. So they're really only racing hard amongst the top 10, but everybody else is just waiting and waiting and waiting for their moment because they know it will get wilder from here on out.
You could also wonder, James, whether drivers are kind of following in that same sort of strategy that Ryan Vargas is employing. The fact that he's going to not pit to the rest of this race and try to save as much fuel in the draft. Maybe other drivers kind of heard of that plan, started to maybe adjust their own agendas and work forward in that single file draft and possibly save along with Ryan, maybe hoping that it's going to be the strategy to win the race. So although they're single file, they're not necessarily racing. They're logging in laps, but they may also be trying to use that fuel-saving strategy to get to the checkered flag the next 31 laps or so.
You take a look there on Preston Pardis' machine. In this race, he's the number 90, the P-Money machine, and a throwback to Dan Pardis' 07, way back in the day. This is a car that hit the high banks of Daytona, and a pretty neat family connection there. The Midwest Transit car in its full red and white glory back from 1998. You look very closely there at the A-pillar. It's the anniversary logo that NASCAR ran during that season, the year that a certain Earnhardt also won the Daytona 500, for those who know the NASCAR history well. But a really cool story about to see Preston thrown back to the fam from some 25 years ago.
And at least a very good throwback. Some of the handful that we've seen so far here tonight, I've obviously mentioned Ryan Vargas' paint scheme and some of the others that we've seen. And now you're riding on board with a driver with a more modern paint scheme, the Space Station colors of Will Rogers. He just made a switch move to the lead before Anthony Alfredo had something to say about it, and then he went back to the inside. So I have to wonder now, James, that these guys have been acquainted with each other for just a while in this main pack, that maybe things could start to step up, get a little more aggressive as Rogers gets a big shove from Parker Kligerman. Not going to clear for a second. There's contact between the two, and almost around he goes. He'll save it, though, as the rest of the field spans out.
That was a big moment, and now they do wreck finally behind. It was coming for a while, and it just took a long time to boil over, but a major incident over in turn 4. Probably our biggest wreck of the night up to this point, and Brandon Brown in trouble again. This time I think he got a little bit of help from Garrett Miller, but they all checked up behind David Schildhaus. Brown got turned, and then everybody else piled in behind him.
Such a big instance there, and Brandon Brown used that fast spur. You said it a little bit earlier, James, and now this is going to be possibly detrimental to the rest of this race for that 12 car. You see where the contact starts, and you'll see it up at the front of this field down the back straightaway to turn 3. It's the 75 of Kligerman that kind of kicks this sort of domino effect off, gives a shove to the 55 of Rogers. Seems to be calm for now, but then Kligerman tries to follow suit to go down with Rogers. Contact up at the front of the field, and then you'll see near this mid-pack, they start to check up. Contact with Brandon Brown in the 36 gets sent right to the wall, and a handful of cars get involved in there as well. Big hit, though, for the 41 of Stallnick.
Yeah, just a very big chain reaction that does indeed start with everything that was happening at the front between Will Rogers, Parker Kligerman, and Anthony Alfredo. And it took until it got to about mid-pack. It was just everybody checking up. Sexton got loose. He checked up. Garcia checked up behind him. Schildhaus checked up. And then it was poor Brandon Brown who got the shove from Garrett Miller, who just could not get stopped in time. Anthony Alfredo was able to escape this, but DJ Majors got destroyed in this one. And same thing for Matt Stallnick, who isn't so lucky this time around. Had a few more cars in the back. I think James Bickford got some damage. Shane Van Gisbergen with some damage to the front end of his machine. I think I saw one car ended up backing down towards pit road. James Davison got some more damage on his car. And it was Garrett Miller who was sideways and backwards all the way here. So lots of cars now on pit road to try and get their cars either repaired or get the fuel in, because if you stop now, you are almost certainly good to the end as we approach 25 laps to go.
And the worst part about that incident is you take another look at it, they were piling up to turn 2. A lot of those guys were just hanging in, and we had talked about it so much over the course of the broadcast, trying to stay low, trying to stay back, trying to stay stealthy and get out of incidents. And for most of the drivers who are trying to do just that, end up on the short end of the stick. You see a ride through the grass over the hill for one of the drivers there you're running on board with his Camaro. And just again, another look at the incident, gathering so many cars. James Davison gets collected in it. TJ Majors with a wild hit as well. And for a lot of them, just trying to save to the end, they may have a lot more to work on their cars, hoping that the fast pairs are still well and dandy.
Also, a small editorial note here from our desk. I want to make a correction on Preston Pottis' throwback. Yes, technically it was a 1998 chassis that was used at Daytona that weekend in the photo that we showed you, but that car actually raced in the 1999 July race at Daytona. What was then the Pepsi 400, what is now known as the Coke Zero 400, and a little small trivia nugget, the first NASCAR and Cup Series race to be run under the lights at Daytona in July. If you'll remember correctly, the plan originally was to try and get them to run under the lights during the July 4th weekend in 1998, but there were severe wildfires throughout northeastern Florida that spread through the area, and so that race was postponed until October of 1998. Jeff Gordon, the winner that night, as he rolled on to his all-time best season, 13 wins out of 33 races, and his third NASCAR Cup Series title back in that year. But it was in 1999 that they finally got the chance to run under the lights on July 4th weekend the way that they intended to. And the winner that evening, if you're curious, how about Dale Jarrett in the number 88 machine? Which, speaking of 88s, how about Mike Clay having a good run in the top 10 too?
Certainly having a good run, and we talked about it a little bit earlier with the hockey reporter working in the draft, so he's also made a very big move to the front. I was going to talk about him a little bit earlier. Started 22nd and was up to the 9th spot, now just fell one spot behind that to 10, so he'll be on the outside of row number 5. Curious to see what he's going to do in the start. We've kind of been seeing him hanging around this first pack, but really hasn't done many aggressive moves. He's kind of just followed what a lot of the leaders have been doing, and so far it's panned out very well for the driver of that 88 machine. So maybe we could see that ESPN Plus Toyota Supra head back up to the front of the field, but everybody's doubled up. James, we're ready to get green with about 25 laps left to go.
Going to be a tight one, going to be a close one. Adam Cabot, your leader here, ahead of Will Rogers, Preston Pottis and company. Interesting mix of strategies as well as lights are off on the pace car. Some drivers like Cabot getting a splash of fuel. Others like Rogers getting 2 tires, your first 4-tire car in the field. Anthony Alfredo will restart in the 9th position. We wait for the green flag, and Cabot was a little bit slow to go. Didn't quite get the best of restarts. So Will Rogers will be there to his outside as they reckon the tri-oval, and the commentator's curse is clearly alive and well because it's Mike Clay that goes around, and before we even get to turn 1, the yellow flag is out again as he makes contact with Ruben Garcia.
Well, now I don't feel bad for saying that, James. I said that hopefully he was going to have a good run, and then he has contact with Ruben Garcia to the front. Unfortunate for the driver of the 88. We'll take a look and see as they were stacking up on this restart just a bit, and I'm not sure whether he had help from behind or whether he just ended up getting loose. Something might have happened here. Actually, I think he might have missed shift, trying to go up the gears, missed the gear, and then went down the track, slowed down, got hit, and then Ruben Garcia also gets a piece of the collection. You see the pace car go by. And just a matter of going up the gears, making that miscommunication and jamming it up. That's seemingly what happened there. Ruben Garcia, pretty much the innocent bystander here, getting hit.
You get stuck with the gear jam, and you get these almost sort of pinwheel-like spins coming out of the tri-oval at Daytona. We've seen them a few times. My brain immediately goes back to the wreck that Dale Jarrett and Jeff Gordon had towards the end of the 2002 Daytona 500, where they all sort of synchronized their spin off to the inside. But as it stands, those two will get back in line. Not too much damage on either machine, so they should have a moment to get their cars fixed up, but they'll make it happen anyway. We'll take another commercial break and be back with more action on the other side as you watch Podium Esports coverage of the season opener for Season 3 of Monday Night Racing, the Sim Seats 250, live from iRacing's virtual World Center of Racing at Daytona International Speedway.
There's a place where fire and flavor are celebrated, where grilling traditions and new techniques are perfected. Here in Big Green Egg Country, you can grill it, roast it, smoke it, or bake it. It's the most versatile grill you'll ever own. Simple delight, easy to use, comes with a free lifetime warranty. Have it delivered to your door by a certified dealer in your community and start enjoying the ultimate cooking experience. Shop online for home delivery at BigGreenEgg.com. That's BigGreenEgg.com.
comes natural.
When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. There's a reason that McConey Setup Shop is trusted by more virtual and real-world tracks and companies than any other setup shop in iRacing. With partners such as Stafford Motor Speedway, the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, Five Flags Speedway, Speed 51, and more. When you want something done right, you go to the experts at McConey Setup Shop.
With setups available for most series on both asphalt and dirt, built by a team of professional builders consisting of some of the top talents on the service, McConey Setup Shop LLC has what you need to hit the track with confidence. Head over to McConeySetupShop.com and learn why McConey Setup Shop is the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports and is partnered with some of the largest names in virtual and real racing.
And remember, at McConey Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
We are an industrial flooring company specializing in custom floors and drains. We don't believe in the one-size-fits-all approach to flooring, and neither should you. When you choose Tufco, we consult with you about your needs, industry requirements, and factor in numerous variables. After assessing your facility, we engineer your floor and drains, then install everything ourselves. That's the Tufco way. Visit our website at tufcoflooring.com.
Welcome back to Podium Esports coverage of the SimSeats 250. James Pike, Kenneth Bueno, Justin Prince down on pit road, and Ryan Bauer producing all the images and the shots and the graphics that you are seeing this evening, with cameras provided to us this evening by Dougie Beard. Adam Cabot is your race leader. How about it? There's a story for you right there, Kenneth Bueno. The ERL champion, the sim racer at heart out of Glen Gardner, New Jersey, who has come up into this exclusively off of his sim racing talents, now leading the field in his very first Monday Night Racing start, and he'll lead the field back to the green flag on lap 70 of 90.
And he'll probably have a little bit more pressure here now. We're closing into the final 20 laps of this race. He was the champion in this series. Maybe he can handle a little more pressure at the front of the Monday Night Racing field. Green flag back out in the air. Cabot, though, with a big push from Preston Part is going to give him a solid one as they head back to turn one. At least a good amount one to clear the 55 of Will Rogers. We'll see how the outside fares when they head out to the back straightaway. But as for now, Cabot still with a nose out front.
Cabot got a good jump there. He's got help from Preston Pardis. Will Rogers up top there with Parker Klingerman. Gary Sexton in line here too. How about Raja Karuth? We've not called the name of the man who got the victory at Tri-County Speedway over the weekend, but Raja Karuth is there for the first time, and we know how prolific Raja is in any one of the oval cars on iRacing. Doesn't matter whether or not it's the Cup car, the Xfinity car, or the truck. The man can go on an oval, and now I think he's getting the sense it might be time to start making moves.
He definitely got the time to go. He's got help from Anthony Alfredo, try to make a move back down, but Raja Karuth goes to third on the outside lane as they shuffle one of the drivers out there. The 57 machine, they stalled him out on the outside groove, and also Ryan Vargas got that damage earlier in a wreck. He got his fast and fair. Now he's up in the mix. It's the final 20 laps here, James, so I think you might have to start turning on the boosters, turning on the jets. It's time to go here.
Starting to wonder whether or not it might be the right time to make it happen. Justin Prince, what have you heard from pit road? What are you learning about these drivers as they prepare for their final charge to the front?
Well, for a lot of these drivers, right now the focus has gone towards trying to figure out when to make the move. Ryan Vargas has been asking some of his moderators and supporters, when should we try and make the move in the number 6 machine? So several different contenders are thinking about those lines. Others, like Anthony Alfredo, have been wanting to find their way back to the front after being at the front for much of this race, and you can see several of those drivers already charging their way back to the pack.
Ryan Vargas has started to inch his way towards the front of this field. You've got Alfredo that we're riding on board with now, right behind Raja Karuth. He's the third car in line on that high side as Parker Kligerman paces them all up top. And I wonder how this differs depending on whether or not you do or don't have a faster pair. We know Vargas does not, but I think everybody else up front, to my knowledge, Kenneth Bueno, has not used their faster pair yet. Maybe save for Raja Karuth. I think Raja might have burned it, but still, that's got to change the way you race this a little bit.
It definitely does, and if you're Ryan Vargas, you have to be a little more cautionary of what you're going to do, because all of a sudden, just like you say, get a little bit of damage, you have to spend that time pit road, and especially with the fact that you have to rely so much on the aerodynamics of your race car at a super speedway, it's going to be even more tough for the 6 of Vargas to hold on to where he's at the front of this field with everybody being so aggressive, because they can be as aggressive as they want. They get pit road, and as Showdown had said it a little bit earlier, being aggressive to the end is probably going to be key to win this race. And how about Adam Cabot giving that push from the 75 of Parker Kligerman? He went from the bottom back to the top, and now he wants to take back the race lead as they head back to turn 3.
And not a surprise that Adam Cabot has decided it's time to start controlling these lanes and making something happen. And what a story that would be if he can convert start number 1 into win number 1. That's fairy tale Disneyland, Disney World type stuff, I guess, if we're in Florida 101. But Cabot has had a solid ride here throughout the evening, so not a surprise here. But again, you earn your way into this through the ERL. You've proven you got the skills to compete and not just be here, but be competitive on a week-in, week-out basis. So this is the first time we've seen Cabot towards the front of a Monday night racing event. I have a feeling it won't be the last time. We know, however, that Will Rogers knows how to get it done. Defending champ now jumps ahead of Cabot and nearly gets turned, and Rogers has to back all the way out of the throttle to make sure that we did not have an incident over on the back straightaway. And then Rogers gets bumped from Alfredo, and here goes Rogers sideways, and they go crashing in turn 3 as the yellow flag comes out. That was a surprise. He had it nearly checked up and corrected, and then at the very, very end of that, on entry into 3, we finally got the incident there. I think, was it Anthony Alfredo that got into Rogers? I couldn't tell immediately, but yeah, lower contact, I think, yep, between Alfredo and Rogers sends the 55 around, and Parker Kligerman gets caught up. Nowhere for Gary Sexton to go. Ryan Vargas got damaged. David Schildhouse in trouble. Seth Eggert too. A lot of folks involved in this incident here as we approach 15 laps to go.
And take a look here. There's the initial contact to send Will Rogers almost spinning across the entire field. And lucky enough for him, he ends up saving it. But then the second blow comes right here with Alfredo. Gets right into the side of the 55, sends him right around. And so many times we see this, James, that at a super speedway you can get tagged, you get very loose, you end up saving it, and then just that tiny bit of contact with another driver sends you going around. And even worse than Ryan Vargas gets damaged in this. TJ Majors got a faster pair earlier tonight. He's got more damage. You see everybody pretty much piling in. And I think now, James, we may have to start questioning as to whether we might see more yellows, concerning with the aggressivity we've seen so far tonight as you take a look with Justin Melillo.
There's another piece of this, and it's a theme that we've seen all night long with just about every incident we've seen in the corners, as you get a great look at the smoke show that Justin Melillo had to try and work his way through. But everybody losing control of their cars on corner entry, and it seems like there's a split second where you lose the air off of the rear of your car no matter what, and for a moment you end up either really tight or really loose, and that's almost what I think may have happened exactly to Anthony Alfredo. It looked like that car just lost the air off the rear, and he couldn't really drive it down into the corner the way he wanted to, and that's why he rode up the racetrack just a little bit and got into Will Rogers to begin with.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Just the way that a lot of drivers have had handling issues for Alfredo. Just a small move up the track, that small bit of contact with the 55 of Rogers. That's exactly what pretty much is the catalyst to this entire sequence here. And now we're approaching 15 laps to go with Preston Pardus out in front. And a job by Preston Pardus indeed to get around the mess, take advantage, and why not take the race lead and try to lead them on this next restart with 15 to go.
Indeed, Pardus now the man in control of this, as we remind you all that tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Rowdy Energy. Kyle Busch always strives to excel in everything he does, not only on the racetrack, where he's broken countless records and is a two-time NASCAR Cup Series champion, but also off the track, where he's a husband, father, and business owner. With a focus on wellness for longevity in his career and life, Bush created Rowdy Energy with a proprietary enhanced energy formula. Rowdy Energy is a better-for-you product, specifically formulated for your needs to accomplish any challenge thrown your way. Rowdy Energy seeks to support those that embody a spirit of high performance, including the weekend warrior, the superhero mom, the ambitious college student, and the men and women in uniform. Rowdy Energy Drink is currently available in 7 flavors, including 5 sugar-free options that are keto certified. And for more information, you can visit their website at rowdyenergy.com. If you like what you are seeing here, and if you love watching iRacing, this is a week, to say the least. We have so many events coming up across iRacing's platforms and Podium's platforms. It's one of the biggest weeks I can remember in some time, and it continues on Wednesday night, a very special Cinco de Mayo edition of the eNASCAR Pro Invitational iRacing Series from Darlington on Fox Sports 1, Fox Sports Racing in Canada, 8 p.m. Eastern, your start time for that. It'll be a weird day. We'll introduce Gen cars in the afternoon at some point. We know NASCAR getting set to announce those, and then in the evening we'll throw it back because we're going to see a lot of the throwback paint schemes that you're going to see on Sunday in the Goodyear 400. So we're going to be doing a lot of time warping on Wednesday night, and then we've got PCA Sim Racing on Wednesday night as well. You've got those folks going to Watkins Glen. You've got the Dirt Sprint Car Championship Series from Lernerville. So road racing, dirt racing, cup racing, NASCAR racing, all there before you get to the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying series, or qualifying iRacing series rather, from Darlington Raceway. And lots of fun that we're going to see there on the Podium Esports Switch channel Thursday, May 6th at 9 p.m. Eastern. The Premier Series is at Darlington on Saturday night. You'll see that here on the Podium 2 Twitch channel at 8 p.m. before Kenneth, you're in action with round 2. Or rather, race 2 of the round of 16 for the MPI Cup Series playoffs from Chicagoland Speedway in the Cup cars. That'll be on the Podium Esports Twitch channel Sunday night, 9:15 p.m. Eastern. And then we're back here with Monday Night Racing with the Pro 2 trucks from Watkins Glen, a classic combo of MNR coming up on the Podium 2 Twitch channel and the Podium Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter pages at 8 p.m. next Monday night as they delay the yellow flag. Looks like we're going to get one more lap of caution to get everybody lined up. Engine damage there to Mike Clay's machine, so he'll have to come down pit road for service. But so many events that we have coming down the pipeline and so many more stories that we can tell you. We'll go to Justin Prince for one more.
One of the drivers who made their way up the field and then some with an incident was Justin Malone, all the way to 7th position. He told me before the race that he's thought about getting that precious MNR victory for a long time, where he's been second place far too many times, he feels. Tonight he felt is a good night to make that happen. And he had mentioned as well that when it comes to that, he had focused on trying to be calm about tonight's race, and had the opportunity to work with drivers like Michael Massey and David Schildhaus. But he says, I'm here for me, and when it comes down to it, I'll push and pull whoever wants it. He's in position to push and pull whoever he wants to now at the front.
Justin Malillo's had a very, very big last few weeks. He announced last week that he's joined Traction GG. He's a content editor. He's going to be covering the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series for Traction, and is going to get to play around with a few other things. We saw an update earlier today about a certain ball and car-based console game that is going to include NASCAR starting on Thursday. So should be a lot of fun to see what he does at Traction. But he's been part of MNR for a long time. He was part of the title hunt in season 1, and you know he would be so ecstatic to bring a victory back home to Port Jefferson Station, New York.
And I love the mention of Rocket League with NASCAR and F1 going into that. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think I'll probably fire up the game, give a little bit of kicks myself with maybe a Chevrolet Camaro alongside. But yes, we're probably going to look at the Camaros up in front. Preston Pardis, Roger Carruth ready to bring us back to the green flag with 12 laps to go.
12 laps to go in the SimSeats 250, and we still have a solid 27 cars out there on the racetrack trying to find their way to victory lane. Pardis and Rasha Carruth leading us to turn 1 as we go back to green flag racing, as Parker Kligerman, maybe most importantly, is elected to not try and fix the damage, so he's going to hang out as long as he can. And as he rides in third of that high line, we are going to bring you the sights and the sounds of the SimSeats 250 from Daytona International Speedway. Yellow flag out once again, and it was wild there from the field. It looked like we know that Adam Cabot got into the back of Raja Caruth. That's the first thing that we saw, and Caruth was completely sideways, and then it looked like they wrecked all a little bit further back. I think this starts with Garrett Miller properly in one.
And you'll see it here. It's about the top lane, and where Raja Caruth gets very loose. I think sort of similarly with what we saw earlier with Will Rogers getting sort of that shove. You see Raja getting that swift. It goes all the way down. He's able to mostly keep it straight. And then behind them, that's where chaos ensues. And actually, Alfredo almost got a big hit there to the outside wall. Had to push one of the eNASCAR cars up to the top and the safer barrier. But most of the field went and pretty much went up to the outside wall, completely wrecking across the track. You'll see it once more here through the midsection. This is where Raja comes back up the track. 36 machine also gets involved, Garrett Miller. And then right here, the contact happens. They go sailing into one, and they go sailing into the wall as well.
Poor DJ Cummings had absolutely nowhere to go. Just absolutely stuffed into the fence there. We brought up the idea of hip checking earlier, given Stephen Ellis and all the hockey references that we had for Martin talking about the Preds and all. That was a proper hip check of Anthony Alfredo. He sent Cummings in the wall, but it was all to avoid Raja Caruth, who was coming back up the racetrack. And Raja, that was pretty much dead on to Tony Stewart's ride in the 2005 season opener for the Xfinity Series. He ended up winning, but not before he got shoved out down into the apron of turn one, pretty much the exact same way Caruth did, with about maybe 20 laps to go, and he came back to win it. So we'll see if Caruth gets the same kind of magic. But Alfredo went up the racetrack just to make sure that Caruth didn't clean him out and put Alfredo into the fence.
And you see the 10 machine there, 57 also gets collected. These are guys running through the midsection of the pack. They end up seeing this a lot earlier as you ride on board with the 6 Orion Vargas, as the rest of the field will collect to turn one. Watch how Vargas reacts here on this sort of sequence, just trying to be hard on the brakes, making sure nobody gets into you. And right about here, chaos ensues. The smoke starts to billow up, and just trying to be hard on the brakes to the outside wall, get through all of the madness.
That's good work there from Ryan Vargas, who nearly ended up getting clipped right at the end of that. But solid work. He's got some damage on his car. It might not be easy for Vargas to get back to the front before the end of this, but a really, really tight ride. We'll take a look here at Justin Malillo's on board as well. He had a really good trip through all of this. You'll see the smoke billow as Caruth gets sent sideways, and Malillo knew it was coming, just got on the brakes immediately and came down to the apron and watched as everything unfolded behind him. A nice work there from Justin to get through that and maintain a spot near the top 10.
And keeping it clean will be the key to go to the end of this race. That's exactly what Malillo did there. Reacted in time, saw Raja spinning back up the track, and indeed kind of reacted in the same way. What's going to be more interesting here is that Raja actually picked up the race lead back. When the yellow came out, he was still technically the race leader. So although he's got a bit of damage on the front of his car, he is going to lead this field on. And I'm curious to see probably that he did use his fast repair, whether he's going to get some damage repair on pit road or whether he's going to stay out. It's 9 to go, so it is a very split decision here on whether he will end up, but we'll just have to see. But most of the field got collected in that one. A lot of contentious cars being taken out, and possibly with the end of their race coming here.
Made it inside the Tufco Flooring 20 to go. Now the, Tufco Flooring 10 to go as we approach the final few laps of this race. And we also remind you that tonight's broadcast is brought to you by our friends at Big Green Egg, the world's largest producer and international distributor of the highest quality ceramic Kamado-styled charcoal grill. Big Green Egg has spent over 40 years mastering the recipe for the best, most versatile, fuel-efficient, and easy-to-use grill across the globe. The Egg offers more cooking options than all other conventional cookers combined. The Egg, you have a separate grill, smoker, pizza oven, or a rotisserie device, because the Egg does all of that and more to perfection. For more information, you can visit their website at biggreenegg.com. Within the final 7 laps, it's going to be probably caution punctuated, I think, from here on out, Kenneth Bueno. The question is, how many cars do we lose before we get the checkered flag?
I think that's really hard to predict, James, because we've already lost a handful of them in this wreck, and at least with most of the damage, they'll have to go back down. You see a good amount of them. You see one all the way at the top without a front bumper here. So it's going to be interesting to say the least on how that's going to work out. I predict probably maybe 10, maybe 8 to 10 cars that we may get. I think in the final laps they're going to get very aggressive. Somebody may make a mistake and it's going to get fairly big, but it won't take the entire field out.
I think you're right about that as we continue to work our way around Daytona International Speedway. Dylan Welch, Ford Martin, and Brandon Brown are the only 3 cars out of this race. You've also got Drew Welker, Devin Henry, and Stephen Ellis repairing their cars on pit road as Ron Capps is trying to catch into the back of this field. So that leaves us, to my count, with 33 cars still running and on the racetrack, even with the fast repair, which will make this even more entertaining. Also, a friendly reminder before we go green flag that if your brand or business is interested in partnering with Podium Esports, we have space available for you, a plan for every budget, and can custom tailor solutions to suit your business or brand's needs best. For more information on the wide variety of partnership possibilities, send an email to admin@podiumesports.com as we go green flag racing in the Sim Seats 250, working our way towards 7 laps to go now. And Raja Karuth, after his moment with Adam Cabot, is going to be on the inside as Cabot will try and push Preston Pardus on the outside.
And again, they'll be stacked in as they head back to turn number 1. And look who's back into this fight, Robbie Lyons. We saw him at the front of this field aggressively pushing and taking the lead to open this race. Kind of fell back just a little bit, but now he's ended up back in this mix. He's got a very well shot to get back up to the front and try to win this event. But up front, Caruth giving a big block to Preston Pardus. He won't be away just yet as they head back to turn 3.
There was a lot of movement there down the back straightaway. I think that was Matt Stolnick. He was right in the middle of it. He nearly got turned right down the center of the back straightaway as there were cars going to his left and right, trying to jockey for position and get the draft they need to get up towards the front. It's still Pardus and Caruth, 1 and 2. And at the line, it will be Caruth who leads by, call it 27/100ths of a second, but still, those 2 lanes, the middle lane, high lane as it stands, and the bottom lane beginning to get formed up for this final sprint to the finish.
And again, just like every other restart here, James, we see the field in the first pack separate from everybody else, and then they start to slowly reel themselves back in. And with 6 laps to go, that gave them enough time on the restart to catch back up. Guys like Gary Sexton, guys like Ryan Vargas, they're starting to end their way back into this conversation. So although we're seeing the massive moves up front with Kligerman leading that outside lane, it may not be over for the guys behind them that could form a run. Talk about third line expansion, it could happen right now.
So how interesting is this? Parker Kligerman has all the damage on his nose, and yet he's leading that outside line. You would figure that would slow them down a little bit, although he did lead the lap that last time by. But they're still door-to-door, still right there with Raja Caruth and Anthony Alfredo on the inside, and they haven't lost too much ground yet.
I'm surprised with the amount of damage with the aerodynamic effectiveness that the 75 has still been able to hold that prowess at the front of the field. Maybe best so at the front than in the draft. I think maybe in the draft that could be the worst situation. There's Caruth with a block, but almost at the expense with Alfredo back down. Caruth trying to control both lines and succeeding so far.
I think that pretty much says everything you need to know about what Raja Caruth's plan is going to be. Block both lanes and control every run. So we should see him go to the bottom and then to the top and then back and forth, depending on who's got the momentum. This time by, as they come to the stripe, it'll be 4 laps to go. And Caruth, your leader there, as Pardus now gets shuffled high, and he's out and alone in that 3rd lane. So he may drop back to about 15th.
I think he was probably flirting with the top lane, maybe looking for other drivers to go with him, but nobody did. So now he's going to end up falling back at least behind one of the KSDT cars, and he's going to end up behind them in the draft. Caruth back to the block, a switcheroo by the 38 of Alfredo. He goes right to the inside. Kligerman going to split him 3, and Caruth has nowhere to go but the middle.
It took them all night, but they finally go 3 wide at the front. Kligerman all the way up top. Caruth stuck in the middle. He's got help from Ryan Vargas there in the center. Justin Melillo's there too, as Anthony Alfredo is in control of that bottom line just the way he wanted to be.
And just like he's been doing so far this entire race, Kligerman now with an opportunity. He'll get put in the wall by the 6 of Ryan Vargas, and around he'll go with Adam Cabot. More cars involved. Preston Pardus in it as well. The 19 of Robbie Lyons, Gary Sexton, the 51 machine of Garrett Smithley, and a caution comes out right at the breakaway moment. 3 laps to go at Daytona, and again the big one ensues with 3 lines on the racetrack.
green, white checker coming up. Here's the replay. Looks like Stolnick gets loose in the middle. Malillo is there. And yeah, it's Vargas trying to follow Raja Karuth. He ends up putting Parker Kligerman into the fence, and that's what starts all of this. So just really hard racing there as everybody was trying to, again, position themselves for the finish. Not really much I think anybody could have done there. Vargas comes up into Kligerman and puts Kligerman in the fence, and then it was on from there.
And you'll see it here as you ride on board. Gary Sexton, he gets collected here, gets tagged from the outside. He's basically swiveling across the track. Down he goes, and he'll almost about have contact with the inside wall. Garrett Smith will come spinning right beside him. And again, just most drivers trying to, like you said there, James, position themselves for this win and just try to get up to the front, be there at the end. Take a look at Joshua Slate as everything happens right in front of him. Barely finds a space between that wall and the grass.
Oh, it was so close, and that's I think that's what makes this even wilder is that they paved that area out entering turn one more and more and more as the years have progressed, and even then, especially when you have wrecks coming through and or out of the tri-oval like we just had, it still never seems like there's enough room for people to escape and come away without damage. You have to have some luck no matter how much runoff room you have in order to be successful and get through all this.
Well, he was probably at least grateful for his lucky stars that everything had been paved down there, because if not, it probably would have been much trouble for the one at Joshua Slate. So at least right there to the pavement and the grass, he probably had a little bit of moment to control his car, but at least was able to react in time. You see the field so far ahead of him to the point where he can start being on the brakes a little bit earlier than everybody else, and even then, like we've seen, James, it's a close call even if you're all the way back. And for Joshua Slate, gets lucky here, stomps on the brakes, finds that space, and at least now he'll be able to contend for the race win with 3 to go.
Also note, Vargas, for coming up before he was clear, Parker Kligerman has received an end-of-line penalty for that incident. So Vargas will go to the very back of this field, and that will not totally kill his chances to win, but put a pretty sizable dent in them. He'll need some help on this final restart, as we remind you that tonight's broadcast of Monday Night Racing is brought to you by Tufco Flooring, an industrial flooring company specializing in custom floors and drains. Tufco doesn't believe in the one-size-fits-all approach, and neither should you. They listen to your needs and requirements and develop custom solutions for every client. And for more information, you can visit their website at tufcoflooring.com. Looks like a few drivers have come down pit road, but one driver that has not and who is in with a very big shout to win this race is Matt Stolnick. We talked to him earlier, and we'll get our Brian Shock Technologies in-race reporter up to us one more time because, Matt, you're here. You're at the front on a green-white checker with a shot to win this thing. What's your game plan to try and bring home the title?
If I see a hole, I'm taking it. No holes barred this part in the race. Everyone's blocking as they should. Holes are going to close fast. You got to kind of take your run wherever you get it. This will be the biggest win of my sim racing career, if you want to call it that. So I'm going to leave it all out on the track.
How much has the intensity ratcheted up out there on the racetrack? We've seen it go up pretty significantly on the last 10 laps, but can you quantify it actually being out there on the racetrack for us?
It's like being caught in a hurricane, man. Like the last 20 laps of this race have just been pure madness. I mean, just there's you got about less than a second to react when something's happening ahead of you. It's been a blast. I'm just really glad that we've been able to take this eNASCAR Chevy and keep it clean for most of the race. We kind of came back from a mid-race incident, and man, we've just been pretty lucky and avoided some wrecks, and gave my Twitch viewers some good wreck avoidance footage, and hopefully we can go get a win right now, man. This would be huge.
Now, if people wanted to go multi-Twitch it and figure out where you are, what address do we need to punch into the URL?
mstall41, MSTALL41. Now, I will warn you, we weren't able to get the voice and video wired up here at Fox Studios tonight, so maybe next time. But yeah, please drop on by. We'd be happy to have you.
One of the many drivers streaming their points of view on Twitch here on Monday Night Racing. Matt, thanks for the time and best of luck on this final restart.
You got it, guys. Thank you.
As your Bryant Shock Technologies in-race reporter Matt Stolnick, and yes, so many drivers putting out their points of view. And you can follow them on Twitch. You can go to multitwitch.tv and punch in a / and then their URL and then the Podium 2 URL, and you can watch both your favorite drivers in car view and the broadcast at once. David Schildhouse, Garrett Smithley, Anthony Alfredo, all streaming their points of view. Justin Malillo is up there. Raja Karuth, Ryan Vargas is streaming. Just some of the names, and that M-Stall 41, that fellow that we just talked to, yeah, he's also there too. So plenty of drivers that you can pay attention to in Monday Night Racing as we get set to go for this final restart, perhaps in the SimSeats 150.
Well, things are going to get very crazy here now, James, because if we were seeing a lot of chaos with 20 to go, 15 to go, 10 to go, imagine how it's going to be with 2 laps to go to get the crown of the SimSeats 250. Caruth and Alfredo, 2 drivers who we've seen aggressive at the front, ready to lead the field back to green.
Raja Karuth, Anthony Alfredo, your leaders coming to our first attempt of 3 potential green-white checkers if we need them. If we get back to the white, then we'll have our Makoni setup shop 1 to go, and that will be it. But we have to get back to the start-finish line first, and that's not a guarantee either, as Karuth's going to try and go high and block Alfredo as Stolnick immediately bounces off of Justin Malillo going into 1.
And Malillo had to kind of find in with Ruben Garcia, make that move and try to make some of that space to at least give way to Raja Karuth, who's trying to end up to the front. They'll still be side by side. Alfredo with a large shove up top by Stolnick. And then here comes the 97 of Shane Van Gisbergen. We haven't seen him really much all race long. He fell to the back of this field, and now with 2 laps to go, he's got a shot to win this thing.
How about the New Zealander sitting there third on the outside line as Karuth will lead the inside with Malillo and Ruben Garcia coming to the stripe. If they make it across, we'll be okay. Karuth goes Alfredo and keeps the 38 in line, at least for the moment, and they take the white flag. There's your Makoni setup shop 1 to go, so the next flag will end the race no matter what.
Alfredo gets pushed out of line. Gisbergen goes around to the bottom of the racetrack. No caution. We stay green. Malillo giving that shove. Ruben Garcia, as nobody on the outside has help. They're still wrecking behind them. But Karuth with a run out for turn 2. Will there be a move to the top? Yes, sir. Will. Malillo to the inside.
Malillo gets turned on the back straightaway. He gets into Ruben Garcia. They'll duck underneath him. Here comes Robbie Lyons with a huge run on the outside. Karuth has nowhere to go. Stolnick is going to end up pushing Lyons in the middle of 3 and 4, and it'll be a drag race off the final corner. Karuth on the inside, Lyons on the outside. The 19 machine trying to bring it home. They'll have the momentum with help from Matt Stolnick. Karuth is going to get stuck in the center. They're going to wreck at the line. And as they come across the stripe, I think indeed Matt Stolnick went high to miss it all and get the victory in the SimSeats 250. He put himself in the perfect place, and as Lyons and Karuth made contact entering the tri-oval, Stolnick goes high, avoids it all, and picks up his first career win in Monday Night Racing.
And he said it there on the in-race reporter. If he found space, he was going to go for it. And as the 19 gets turned across the line, he's got clear space all the way to the start-finish line and gets it by just a nose. What a victory by the 41 of Stolnick. You'll see it here one more time. It was door-to-door between Karuth and Lyons. Here's the contact from Karuth to the rear end of Lyons, sending him straight around. And how about that? 2 eNASCAR cars, the Chevy Camaro and Ford Mustang, right there, drag race to the finish line.
And the 2 NASCAR employees with a first and second place finish in all of this. As we look at it, we're going to see how this goes and see how crazy this winds up being. But yeah, just a wild moment there as Matt Stolnick was the first to come across the line. It's a finish so wild it busted timing and scoring. That's how crazy it was. So we'll keep our eyes peeled and see how this all pans out. But my goodness, what a race at the end of this.
And what a way to cap off what was a chaotic SimSeats 250 here from the World Center Racing, and under the lights. Of course, so many things happening here, so many historic moments at Daytona again. But the way this package played out, it was an entertaining race for sure. And I think you had it there with the timing and scoring. It still said Raja Karuth as they were crossing the line. That's how it had to register for a couple seconds to know that Stolnick got the win. But finally he does, his first win in Monday Night Racing, and what a way to get it at the end.
We're going to hold here just to make sure that everything's all cleaned up and set us up in the right way, shape, or form. But Matt Stolnick first across the line there, and then Robbie Lyons. That's your margin of victory right there. Stolnick, and then the 19, and then the 10 machine of DJ Cummings. 1, 2, 3. How tight, how close, how wild at the end of this.
And that's just a matter of inches there, James. Just so close between Robbie. You see even one of the drivers straight through the middle just trying to sneak his way through as they kept making contact. It was about 4 cars, 3 to 4 going to the start-finish line. And Stolnick with the utter run to the top as Lyons got turned. I think Carruth really had nowhere to go since the fact that he was pretty much holding a T position with Lyons to the start-finish line. And there you see the 41 just by a margin of a couple thousandths of a second. At 41, Chevrolet Camaro comes to the start-finish line and is unofficially your winner here tonight.
Super tight there. and crazy at the end of all of this. So, yeah, we're still waiting on race control just to sort through the rest of the field to figure it out. But from all that we know, Matt Stolnick has got a victory in Monday Night Racing. And to be fair, I think after the way things panned out in season 2, yes, he didn't get a victory, but Stolnick impressed the opening week at Talladega. He was there throughout the entirety of that race and had speed, and then it was just consistent finishes week on week on week on week. He was a playoff driver last season too, and in that sense, not a huge surprise, I think, that the 41 comes across the line first.
Well, you get a lot of that experience in this league, especially on the super speedways, and just especially with the car and track combos, with the way that even when you go in the Indy cars on an oval, I can remember IndyCar at Indianapolis, IndyCar at Talladega, February 8th of last season, race number 12. You get a lot of that experience running in those kind of high intensity moments. And for Stolnick, it's just about surviving, keeping the nose clean. I said at the top of the broadcast, that was the key to win this race. And just like that, we get a pretty much photo finish to start season 3 of Monday Night Racing. If we have a photo finish here, how are things going to pan out for the rest of the season? Now I'm curious to find that out.
I'm about to say, yeah, I've seen a lot of good finishes in Monday Night Racing. That one's going to be tricky to top, I think. End of the day, no discussion. Just with the way that was not decided until they hit the tri-oval on the very last lap. You figured maybe Robbie Lyons might be able to sneak it, and I almost thought that Lyons was going to end up drifting high because you figured that Carruth would be there in the middle and would try and do something to hold him at bay, and yet Lyons just sort of stayed to the inside and almost left enough room. So maybe there's the question there, K Bueno, and I know hindsight's 2020, but if you're Lyons and you get the chance to run that back, do you shade high up along the fence to make sure that Raja can't get into you?
I think that's a very tough one, James, because you see him here, especially here on this replay. You see him squinch it 3 wide between Alfredo. There's Robbie Lyons a little bit behind them. You could possibly go high and clear Raj Carruth. You saw Raj Carruth was already heading up the racetrack anyway. He was going to try and pinch and push the 19 of Lyons to the wall. So although if Lyons could have made that move up to the safer barrier, I don't think it probably would have been the best decision. Maybe he could have survived, but for Raja, he was going to go up there anyway to try and fight for the race win. And for Lyons, unfortunately, goes around, and that seems to be the end of him. But at least he finishes second tonight.
He finishes second, but we now have our race winner for the first time in Monday Night Racing with us. And Matt, end of the day, I guess you found your hole to go through, didn't you?
I wasn't lying, was I, James? No, this is awesome, man. This league has been so much fun this past year, getting a chance to work with all these guys, Ford, my teammates, DJ, Ron, TJ Majors was a blast to work with out there tonight. I'm speechless. That was such a crazy finish. Honestly, that last lap there, I was just really committed to the 19 because it was probably going to be my best shot, I felt like, to get a good finish. And I saw a hole kind of go up high, and I took it, and they all wrecked below me. Their momentum got killed, and it was there, man. It's just crazy. I'm just overjoyed right now.
We just talked about it right before you came on here a few moments ago, and I made the point that this feels like it's been not necessarily a long time coming, but it's been building for a while because you've been so consistent throughout Monday Night Racing. You had tons of speed in season 2. You were a playoff driver last season, and now you come here and you get your victory right off the bat in Season 3. So in that sense, how rewarding is it to go to Victory Lane knowing that you've been sort of building towards this moment?
Oh my gosh. And, first, yes, I would say it's extra sweet, when you put the work in and, we treat this like a sport, it's a hobby for us. For those of us that work in the industry, we're really close to the real life thing. And this is as close as some of us can get to kind of getting a chance to race for real. And you see some of the names you get to race against. It's very special. So yeah. And then to the point of just, the past year and everything that's kind of been building with all this. This was extra sweet because we lost one, I felt like, last year at the last NASCAR restrictor plate style race we did at Talladega. Kyle Busch got me there on the last lap, great pass that he made, and I felt like I made a huge mistake. And, it was a lot of regret, feeling like I gave up a win in that one. And to come back and kind of win the way that we did, it feels like sweet redemption in that sense.
Redemption, but more importantly, looking forward down the line, you got your playoff spot locked up already. You're the first one that we know is going to be competing for the Season 3 title. So do you have a sense of how that changes your approach to the rest of the season now that, in that sense, the pressure's off until the playoffs begin later on in the summer?
No, I really wouldn't say that. I think when you take a look at how strong the field is going to be, look at the names that were in this race tonight. You got a who's who of guys from across this industry, across sim racing. It's an incredibly talented field. So you're going to have to do everything that you can to stack up as many playoff points. So I'm not going to feel comfortable unless I have another win or two in the bank. And I feel like there's going to be some opportunities to get that this season. I think there's some good tracks for me coming up. I'll tell you what, the thing that makes me feel the most at ease is knowing I can go into the dirt race and some of those road course events where I'm not super strong and kind of just go have fun in those ones. But no, I think, for some of the IndyCar events, definitely, the NASCAR Oval events, I'm going to be, definitely putting the pressure on for those ones because you need every point you can get when we come down to the end of the season, the playoffs.
A big night for you at the end of it, and a big night for your designer Harris Lou as well, who's had a string of good hits here in the last few weeks, but you get the eNASCAR car in Victory Lane. Who do you need to thank for making tonight's run possible, Matt?
Well, definitely all of my buddies on Discord who we've been working with in the race. That'd be Ford Martin, DJ Cummings, TJ Majors, Mark Revelis, Ron Capps. All those guys were great to work with tonight, and I don't think this win would have been possible without kind of the coordination that we did to stay out of trouble in certain points. So definitely there. I want to thank, friends and family, my girlfriend Duval, my mom, my dad, everybody that kind of tuned in to watch. I have a lot of good folks that have come out to support me and watch the stream and all of that crazy stuff. So it means a lot. And then obviously everybody with eNASCAR. I get to run those eNASCAR colors and get to run for some of the folks that I work with, and they all really enjoy this stuff and have a huge passion for sim racing. So it feels good to get a win for those guys as well.
Congratulations on your victory from all of us at Podium Esports Monday Night Racing. Matt, go enjoy it. I know you're going to have a pretty big old time celebrating this one.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate all you do.
Matt Stolnick out of Syracuse, New York, the winner of the SimSeats 250 to kick off Season 3 of Monday Night Racing. Runner-up on the man who almost had this at the line. Another friend of Podium. You've heard him on the broadcasts of the Grit Ultimate Driver Challenge. Robbie Lyons is with Kenneth Bueno.
Here at the 19, Robbie Lyons comes home second in the SimSeats 250. And Robbie, I know the biggest point of the night obviously was that almost 4-5 wide finish coming to the end. You're positioning your car to the finish. Walk us through your point of view as things were happening and building up to the checkered flag.
And they say almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, right? You could say we definitely had some hand grenades going off there that finish. I think everybody was scrapping for all they could get, headed to the finish line. And, that's why Daytona is the season opener, especially under the lights. It puts on a show every time. And gosh, man, that one's on one hand, I'm super excited to bring the CSM Toyota Super Home P2. On the other hand, I'm just gutted to be that close. I've been wanting one of these for a long time, especially at the plate tracks. I feel like they fall into my wheelhouse, and played all my cards right there most of the race. Had to ride there, towards the end, and found myself getting the right shoves at the right time. Congrats to Maddie, and thanks for the shove that he gave me there at the end, and same with DJ. But yeah, chaos. That's Daytona for you.
Definitely some chaos, but you mentioned some of the pushes, and we had talked about in the broadcast just how key positioning was at the end of this race, especially in the fact that in the Xfinity Series cars, in this sort of package, in the way that the packs are formed in this kind of a race, how key was positioning for you in the way that you started up front in third, you led a couple laps, fell back to the pack, and then ended up all the way here at the end?
Yeah, it's they call it a chess match because it's a lot like one. The only thing is the individual pieces think for themselves and have a steering wheel in their hand. So it's not as controlled as a chess match that you might play, but it's all about adapting to the situation you're in, the lines you're in. That whole last lap was just, take them where you could get them. And I barely got clear of Maddie there coming out of 2, I believe. And if I hadn't got cleared there, then I would have been probably pushing Raj to the finish. And but yeah, it's you got to think quick and be on your toes 24/7 every lap. And some of it's luck. There at the end, I feel like I don't want to call it a crapshoot because we got a lot of talented guys in this Monday night series, and can't thank all the sponsors for coming on board and making it possible to have a finish like that. But that'll be a nice photo for Twitter and Instagram and use for promo material in the coming weeks for sure.
Well, yeah, we've already seen the photo, just wild stuff to the finish line. I know it wasn't a win at the end of the day. Second place, though, does it kind of put in a solid foundation for what's going to come in Monday Night Racing? The fact that you start off season 3 with this kind of a finish at the start-finish line, knowing that you were contentious at the front of the field, does this give you a little more confidence going into the rest of the season, knowing how this one played out?
It really does, because the last couple seasons, I think last year we started off at Talladega. I remember Talladega in particular being in the mix, coming to the white flag and getting caught up in a wreck, and you kind of just start in the hole, and it's just constantly fighting to get your way back up there. It's leading into the playoffs, it's really not that many races, so you got to get it done and get it done early. And I'll take second place for sure, especially looking at the bigger picture.
Well, a solid second place here for you, Robbie, here at the Daytona International Speedway. We congratulate you on your finish here. Wild one to the end, but nonetheless, congratulations on that finish, and we wish you the best of luck in whipping the Pro 2 trucks around Watkins Glen next week.
Oh yeah, I look forward to it, and thank you guys at Podium for always putting on a good show.
That is Robbie Lyons, driver of the 19 Toyota Supra, coming home second at the start-finish line. James Pike.
He finishes second. DJ Cummings comes home third. And DJ, just looking back here at this last lap, seemed like your commitment was just bottom, no matter what. Take us through what you saw at your windshield on the white flag.
That's exactly it. Think I was about 9th or 10th there coming to the white, and I saw that top lane getting pretty swirly. I'm like, let's just keep it on the bottom and kind of let the seas part way for us a little bit. It especially happened there as we were coming down the back. And then as we were coming into turn 3, we started doubling back up, and Raj was stuck to the bottom. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to push Raj all the way and see where it takes us. And then when we come off 4, I see Raj move up just a little bit into the middle. I'm like, the inside lane opens up. I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually might have a shot at this. And then we all, obviously, big drag race to the line, and then Robbie got turned. But I tell you what, when I was looking back at the replay, and and obviously I would have gotten penalized for it, but if I did drop below that yellow line, I probably would have crossed the line first. But hey, how about it for Team E NASCAR? We were all screaming over the Discord for Matt. That's awesome for him to get his first win and for his second season Monday Night Racing. Big day for us both. Did not expect a podium finish, but I will certainly take it at a race like Daytona.
You stole that next question right out of my mouth, because I know you and Matt are so tight and have worked together for so long. So I have to believe that to go first and third in this, but never mind the fact that Matt gets the win, but that this race, and maybe then the better question, I suppose, is this finish your maybe new all-time favorite at Monday Night Racing? Does this mean more to you than any of the other finishes you've had in this series, given how well you two did tonight?
it's definitely up there. I mean, I think the most memorable for many different reasons for me, I think, was obviously Monday Night Racing Season 1 Championship, and I think we all know how that turned out. Ended up costing me the championship by making a move just a little too early. But I think as far as a team perspective, this is definitely up there, and definitely put us in the right spot and off on a good foot beginning the season. And there's plenty of really other fun events that I got circled on my calendar. Specifically the Indy 500 we're going to be doing here in a couple weeks. Also the Miami Roval that we're going to be doing in the playoffs, and then also I think we're doing a couple other road courses, and I think it should be, which I've done pretty well at. I think those are ones I'm looking most forward to, so it'll be definitely a great start to the year, and hope to build a lot more off of it.
I have a hunch that you probably will. DJ, thanks for the time. Congratulations on the podium finish, and we look forward to seeing you next week at Watkins Glen.
Thank you, sir. Good night, guys.
DJ Cummings, third place finisher tonight at Daytona. And Kenneth, how do you carry on the momentum after a start to Monday Night Racing like that, which is about as good as we have seen it ever in this series?
I'm not quite sure, James. I mean, what we expected here, did we expect this kind of a finish, this kind of a race? Probably not, but in the way I think we probably appreciate what we got a show to behold here at the World Center Racing. But to keep this up, I mean, it's very tough. We've got the Pro 2 trucks next week at Watkins Glen, so already you're going from high-intensity super speedway racing to beating and bashing the trucks around a tight road course. That is going to be probably one of the biggest questions we see, at least in how those drivers adapt to that. But with the way Matt Sonic got this win tonight, I think he's going to feel a lot more weight off his shoulders knowing he has this win. He's got that checkered flag. He didn't say he's going to relax, but he definitely knows in the back of his mind that that's going to help him moving forward.
And Justin Prince, how do you think driver relations are going to be going into next week? We saw and heard about a lot of folks happy with each other. Do you feel like that carries on to our race at Watkins Glen next Monday night?
I think there's the chance to relieve a little bit of anger, potentially, absolutely. But for the most part, I think based on how tonight finished out, a lot of the drivers overall are focusing on one thing, having fun. And that's what a lot of the drivers I spoke to had kind of keyed towards before tonight's action, is trying to stay positive and having fun. And that's in turn what a lot of them did, because for a majority of the drivers, even the ones that were involved in the absolute chaos in the end there, they were watching along and trying to figure out, okay, what just happened there? That's absolutely amazing. So that even with how crazy the final laps were in this race, the positivity was coming in strong for many of these competitors tonight. So I think while there's going to be definitely some anger being let out and some drivers thinking about that at the back of their minds, I think overall, though, the main focal point is they just enjoyed themselves this evening with the crazy finish 5 wide, essentially, at the stripe.
If you liked what you saw tonight, we have an entire summer's worth of this coming your way. Season 3 starts tonight. It's going to roll all the way through August 30th when we make our way back to Homestead Miami Speedway, and we'll race in the trucks for the title this time. We'll go truck racing once again for a championship, but down in South Florida as opposed to Atlanta Motor Speedway. Here's a look at the season schedule in full. We mentioned a little bit that our next race will be next Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/Podium2, as well as the Podium Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter pages. We're going to go Pro 2 truck racing at Watkins Glen. That's a Monday Night Racing staple. It's a combo that they've run in every season in some form, and we had a great race last year. Will Rogers wins. We had people flipping off of the final corner on the final lap, so I don't think the intensity is going to lower all that much when we go road course racing for the first time next week. We go dirt racing with the trucks at Bristol, and then we know how nuts things can get if you watch the Season 1 title race or the Monday Night Racing Indianapolis 500 last year. We know how wild it gets with the IndyCar at Indianapolis. Then you get an off week for Memorial Day before a new combo and a fun one, and one that I suspect Parker Kligerman is going to be all over, because we head to his home racetrack Lime Rock Park. We take the MX-5 Miata. First time we've had the new Miata racing in Monday Night Racing, and that should be a lot of fun to see how it gets around a shorter road course. I think in that sense should be a very good fit. We've done Knoxville before. We'll do it again with the Dirt Street Stocks on June 14th before we head to Worldwide Technology Raceway with the new super late model that was updated in the March build of iRacing. Road America with the IndyCar, a classic American motorsports combination, and we know how excellent those cars tend to get around Road America, how fun it is to run an IndyCar on a road course. So we'll watch how they get on at the end of June. And then Chicagoland with the Xfinity machines. It's a handful. You got some power. You got some control you're going to hang on to. That'll be July 5th. We'll go All-Star Racing with the Radicals at Texas. Ryan Vargas won that race. It was a points race in Season 1. It's an exhibition race, the All-Star race in Series 3. You'll see them run the apron. Those things have that much downforce. And yes, you heard me correct, the apron. That's how radical the racing can get with the Radicals at Texas. Las Vegas in the Cup cars and Nashville in the super late models coming your way to start off the playoffs. The Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway is where we'll head there. Then we go to Talladega with the trucks, and then we head to the backyard of our own Kenneth Bueno, the Homestead Miami Speedway Roval with the Porsche 911s RS Yards on August 9th. Then it's tests. Darlington in the 1987 Ford Thunderbird and Chevrolet Monte Carlo. The Xfinity cars from Auto Club. The penultimate race of the season, just as it was back in March before we hit the title race. Miami in the trucks on August 30th. So much racing to bring your way. So many events coming up this week as well. Continues with the eNASCAR Pro Invitational iRacing Series from Darlington Raceway, May 5th, 8 p.m. This Wednesday, Fox Sports 1, Fox Sports Racing in Canada. You'll see the stars of the NASCAR Cup Series take virtually to the Lady in Black. You also have PCA Sim Racing for Watkins Glen and the Dirt Sprint Car Championship Series from Lernersville that night too. So pull out all the screens that you can. You'll need all of them to make it work and make sure you get all the action in over the airwaves. Thursday night, it's the eNASCAR Road to Pro Qualifying iRacing Series from Darlington Raceway. Some more Darlington action coming up on Thursday night at 9 p.m. on the Podium Esports Switch channel. Before we go to Podium 2 for Darlington once again, this time in the MSRA Premier Series on Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Before Sunday night, it's the MPI Cup Series playoffs from Chicagoland on the Podium Esports Switch channel. And the Monday night racing with the Pro 2 trucks from Watkins Glen. And we'll be right back on the air, 8 p.m. Eastern next Monday night, twitch.tv/Podium 2, as well as the Podium Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter pages. What a way to start off Series 3 and Season 3 of Monday Night Racing presented by Tufco Flooring. Matt Stolnick gets the win at the line, and we have so much more racing coming your way over the next few months. We'll be super excited to bring you all the action for Monday Night Racing Season 3. But for now, it's time to say goodbye. So for Ford Martin, Paul Sutton, Josh Mendoza, the team at Monday Night Racing, for our team at Podium Esports, Cisco Scaramuza, John Theodore, Gary Sexton, and our team on the broadcast this evening, our producer Ryan Bauer, our pit reporter Justin Prince, our spotter for this evening Taylor Burrish, and my colleague in the booth, me Kenneth Bueno. I am James Pine, the voice of Podium Esports. Thank you so much for watching our coverage of Monday Night Racing. We look forward to seeing you next Monday night as we get set to go Pro 2 truck racing from Watkins Glen. Congratulations to Matt Stolnick, the winner of tonight's Sim Seats 250 from iRacing's virtual Daytona International Speedway.